Please be seated. Please allow me to share the respective Stratford City Council. The Corporation of the City of Stratford is committed to providing all the service to all members of the public, council, and our employees. Our goal is to promote a safe, healthy, respectful, inclusive, and positive environment. We have a responsibility to treat people with respect by creating safe and respectful spaces. It is the city's expectation that all present will be respectful. That the clerk, the meeting is yours.
Through your worship, moving to item 2, declarations of pecuniary interest. Are there any declarations to be made at this time?
See none.
Moving to item 3, adoption of the minutes, and there is a motion that the minutes of the regular meeting of council of the Corporation of the City of Stratford dated June 22, 2026 be adopted as printed.
Thank you. Move it for that, Councillor Nigel will move, second by Councillor Henderson. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any, that's unanimous and carried.
Moving to item 4, adoption of the addendum to the agenda. Prior to today's council meeting, an addendum was circulated to add item 7.1, a delegation request with respect to the Grand Trunk report. And there is a motion that the addendum to the regular agenda of council and standing committee stated through July 13, 2026 be added to the agenda as printed.
Thank you. Move for the addendum. Councillor Burback will move, second by Councillor Dixie and Hunter. All in favor? Opposed, if any, that's unanimous and carried.
Moving to item 5, report of the Committee of the Whole in camera session. The Committee of the Whole in camera session for today was cancelled and there is no reporting to be completed at this time. Moving to item 6, hearings, deputations, and presentation. Item 6.1 is the Festival Hydro Inc. proposed holding company corporate structure. Festival Hydro Inc. President and CEO Beth Graham, CFO and VP of Strategy Alison Conrad are present today for the proposal, and there is a motion that they be heard.
Mover, Councillor Nigel will move, second by Councillor Burback. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any, that's unanimous and carried. And welcome.
Thank you, Your Worship. Okay, good evening and thank you for your time. I'm Jeff Graham, the President CEO of Festival Hydro and Festival Hydro Services Inc. that operates this rental network. Today we're going to introduce a corporate restructure that we're proposing for the Festival Hydro Group companies. I realize we have a very short time period, so I'm gonna rip through this quickly and hit the highlights.
Don't be afraid to take your time because this is an important.
Thank you, appreciate it. Thank you. So currently, City of Stratford holds 100% of the equity in Festival Hydro Services Inc. and Festival Hydro Inc. What we're proposing through this restructure is repositioning Festival Hydro Services Inc. as a parent holding company. And Festival Hydro would be a wholly owned subsidiary, along with 2 new wholly owned subsidiaries. And I'll refer to those as Services Co. and Co. for the purpose of this presentation. And I'll go through this in a little bit. The timing of this change really coincides with our belief that there are going to be some new opportunities coming up in the near future. We've also been instructed by our board of directors for a growth mandate and growing revenues to help reduce the burden on the tax roll for the city of Stratford. I also want to say that the reason around this also coincides with some recent past opportunities that we might have had a better chance of winning if we had a different type of structure at our disposal. And we're expecting more opportunities both on the regulated utility business side as well as the non-regulated side. So some strategic objectives and benefits for this structure. As I mentioned, this is going to offer additional potential for subsidiary growth, some more flexibility around mergers and acquisition opportunities and partnerships, and all of this while preserving the ownership and control that the city currently has today as the shareholder. Dividend and interest payments will continue to flow up to the city of Stratford. And this structure will provide opportunities for subsidiary dividends to grow in the future as well. The structure also can provide a festival group of companies with enhanced capital and financing structures, creating tax and operational efficiencies, and benefiting subsidiaries with financing based on the enterprise value of the group of companies and potentially preferred rates on that financing. There will be increased risk and liability ring fencing across the distinct business lines, and this further insulates the city of Stratford and each of those subsidiaries from exposure. We expect board governance with overall strategic direction at the holding company level, and the subsidiaries having directors with the relevant experience and skills focusing on the execution of those strategies. And on an internal note, we really feel this structure provides better talent attraction, retention, and development for each of our people. So in this somewhat convoluted diagram, you can see the city of Stratford remains as the sole shareholder at the top of the structure with 100% ownership with the Festival Group Holdings Inc., the holding company. And below Festival Holdings Inc., you'll see the subsidiaries being Festival Hydro Inc., the local distribution company, NBC, Services Co., and NewCo. Along with this, you'll notice there's a trust proposed. There are some tax implications around the geographic jurisdiction that our companies operate. Having a trust hold one non-voting preferred share will essentially keep this company under the Income Tax Act versus the payment in lieu of taxes, and allows that Festival Hydro or Festival NewCo to operate without boundaries in terms of geographic restrictions. Around the board structures, we're proposing an interim structure upon an approved scenario. Essentially, the board of directors for the LDC Festival Hydro Inc. will remain the same as it is today. Services Co. that would operate as Rhizome would have the same board of directors as there is today. And Gold Co. would have a slate of board of directors comprised of members of each of the LDC board and Rhizome board of directors, which includes both independent directors and shareholder directors or city representation. Target structure, when the restructuring is complete, we'll see a holding company, again with a set of independent skills-based directors that have skills relevant to the companies that it holds, along with city shareholder representatives as well. And each of the subsidiary companies we'll have directors that have the experience and skill set within each of those organizations. And will remain as independents and focus on business execution versus the holding company directors that will really focus on overall strategic direction for the group. A couple of very busy slides, so we can move to the summary. So under the new declaration of sole shareholders for each of the companies within the group, ownership is preserved to the city of Stratford, but allows operating flexibility for each of the subsidiaries, particularly on the non-regulated side. It introduces stronger governance of the regulated LDC, while aligning our independent expectations for good governance, which is a regulatory requirement. This adds additional protections for any major transactions, requiring essentially 2 levels of consent for any major changes. It really contains the liabilities at the holding company level, limiting exposure within each of the corporations, and holding it from rising up to the city level. And all of this while providing a foundation to enable additional commercial growth and to pursue other revenue generating opportunities within the group of companies. I'm going to pass the next discussions over to my colleague.
I'm Alton Conrad, I'm the CFO and VP strategy at Festival Hydro and Red Zone Networks. Just wanted to do a quick overview of our current dividend and interest structure and how it will or won't change. So basically right now, we are planning to keep the exact same dividend policy, which is currently goes from Festival Hydro Inc. directly to the city. So that dividend policy would be at the holdco level and be identically worded. From in terms of the shareholder debt, so at Festival Hydro Inc. holds 15.6 million in shareholder debt and Rise almost 372,000. Both of those shareholder debt amounts will move to holdco and will be retained basically at the exact same interest rate going from holdco to the city of Stratford. So there would be no changes there. And we would hope that on the dividend side with the additional companies that we would be able to have dividend growth out of the new co as well. Also, just so that everyone's aware, this structure is very common for municipally held organizations in the province. There's about 55 utilities, LDCs in Ontario. And the majority of them also having a similar structure to this. Some of them are mentioned here. There's only about a handful that still are not under this structure. And if there's any specific questions, we're able to meet with anyone individually. We've tried to do that a little bit so far, but if there's anyone else that has more detailed questions, as it's pretty complicated, we're happy to
Thank you. We'll open it up to questions. Councilor Henderson, go ahead.
To the mayor, what my first question was, do other hydro services have this like set up? And I see that we're gonna use pretty well a lot of the same people on boards. But what about staff? Will we need to hire a lot more staff, or are they still like basically everything we're doing now, we're just breaking it out, right?
Yeah,
So will we need the same amount of staff, or will we have to hire?
well, the expectation is if we grow, we're gonna probably.
Well,
But we're not. Well, as soon as those opportunities arrive, we're pretty aggressively looking at those.
Okay.
We would only be hoping to expand staff. To be able to provide more staff.
And will the city? I remember when you came before one time, we were gonna do something and it ended up us getting less dividends, so is there any danger of that?
No, that's the idea here is hopefully to grow revenue and hopefully grow dividends as well.
I think that's all I've got right now.
Other questions or comments? CEO, did you want to speak?
Thank you for Mayor. So I just wanted to tell council from a process perspective. So you've heard the presentation today. The intent was, you hear the presentation today. Some of you that sit either on Festival Hydro Inc. or Festival Hydro Services Inc. would know bits and pieces of this. Some of you that don't sit on those boards, this is the first time you're seeing some of this information. So what we want to make sure is that the presentation today has some high level questions. In your package today, you do have the proposed shareholder agreements and declarations. What we're intending to do is next meeting, have our solicitor review those with you to kind of give you that legal opinion of what this means, what that means, what this clause means, and have a conversation. That'll give you time to digest some of this information, provide our legal counsel and myself with any of your strategies, concerns, or otherwise in regards to what you're seeing in front of you today. And then we would take that back, meet with the team and their legal counsel to review kind of what that looks like, propose any changes, and then we bring back a fulsome report together in the future to say, here's what some of the concerns we heard were, here's what we're proposing in regards to recommendations on how this could move forward. And then council would then have final discussion as we move forward on that process. Myself and our legal counsel have met with Jeff team and legal counsel involved to understand some of those components. But like I told Jeff, we haven't talked about this at a council level as a board yet. So that's kind of from a process perspective. That's what you're seeing today's first initial presentation, and we'll be talking about this a little bit more over the next several weeks.
Thank you. Councilor McCabe, go ahead.
Through the chair, thanks for the presentation. I want to start by acknowledging the work that has gone into this proposal. Structurally, I think it is a well-considered operational document, reflects significant thought about the future opportunities and direction of the organization. I also recognize the proposal has considered the role of the shareholder and provides a perspective on that. Where I think there's an opportunity is to further develop the shareholder direction from the municipal governance perspective. Festival Hydro is an important municipal asset, and I also see it as an important mechanism for helping us achieve our greenhouse goals and broader community objectives. Because of that importance, I believe council has a responsibility as a shareholder to ensure that our expectations, priorities, and principles are clearly articulated. This is not about council managing operations, but that's for the board and management, but their roles are important, but so is ours as City of Stratford representatives. This is ensuring the shareholders' expectations are clearly established and the board and future councils understand the objectives and principles that should guide decisions involving this important municipal asset. I support exploring opportunities, the partnerships, and growth. The question is whether the shareholder direction before us fully reflects that broader municipal objective that council wants to see for this asset. I believe adding to the shareholder direction would strengthen the proposal, not delay it, would provide greater clarity and ensure that the future structure aligns with the long-term interests and priorities of this municipality. I also think the timing of the discussion is worth recognizing. This is a significant governance decision occurring during the summer period with staffing availability and vacations, and council schedules can make it slightly more challenging. But hopefully this can happen in tandem and does not delay what is going to happen. So my objective is here is not to slow down progress or prevent opportunities. The objective is to make sure that the operational structure is supported by a strong and complete municipal governance framework. Because of that, I'd like to propose a motion that allows to move forward with the work and has been done, while also ensuring that the shareholder perspective is fully developed. So I would like to bring forward this motion. The council directs staff to report back concurrently to the final restructuring documents with the revised shareholder direction. The structure is similar to these, but indication that there's a more fulsome shareholder direction in these other LDCs. So there are 4 points to it. Clearly, the shareholder direction clearly articulates the municipality's objectives as sole shareholder of Festival Hydro, holding company. Number two, identifies those strategic matters requiring prior shareholder approval, including matters that could materially affect the municipality's ownership interests, the corporation's strategic direction, or overall risk profile. Number three, establishes an appropriate framework for regular shareholder reporting and consultation, respecting significant initiatives. And number four, reflects governance practices adopted by comparable Ontario municipally owned local distribution companies, having regard to the size and circumstances of.
Thank you, Councilor McCabe. A seconder to that motion, Councilor Burback will second. I'm just looking to the deputy clerk, do you have it on the screen? Thank you. Perfect. Questions with regards to the motion that's on the screen? Councilor Burback, go ahead, and then Councilor Murphy.
The chair, my thoughts were that this was too big of a decision to make tonight, so I'm really glad to see that we're going to be taking a little more time, and I think that Councilor McCabe's direction on this is a good framework for us to move forward. I was wondering why there wasn't a staff report, that now I understand that part of that was on the way. So I do appreciate that. That eliminates that question. There are some specific things maybe that could also be looked at, just doesn't need to be part of the motion, but there was a sort of the restructured board that would be from now to December. There was a comment made that it couldn't have an individual that would be on all three boards, and yet there is plan for one individual to be on all three boards. So I'm just maybe take a look at that. And the other one was in your recommended motion, there's a sentence saying any officer of the corporation of the city of Stratford is authorized to take such further actions to execute and deliver all such further agreements, instruments, and documents on behalf of the corporation of the city of Stratford may be necessary to one suitable in connection with restructuring. That to me is a bit of a red flag, but maybe if that can be explained a little further. Just having one individual making decisions as part of the group, maybe I'm not understanding what that means, but those, maybe you don't even need to answer it tonight, maybe this is part of when it comes back to us, something that I would like to see.
I can answer that now.
Okay.
And even with the first question you had. So if a non-shareholder board member sits on multiple boards, they're no longer considered independent. And there's some restrictions on the regulated LBC that require greater than 50% to be independent. So we can have board directors that sit on multiple boards. They just don't count towards that 50%. On the second item, really, this is that resolution is around allowing officers of the corporation to be able to stand up services code and incorporate that new code, et cetera, as part of this restructure process. But it limits us to the actions contained in those declarations and information.
So there's parameters. It just didn't sound like it.
Yeah, we don't get to sign off on something completely unrelated to
It's a little broad.
It is. There's licenses from the CRTC, et cetera, that impact Rising's business, et cetera, as an example.
Thank you, Councilor Burback, Councilor Murphy, then Councilor Henderson.
Thank you. I wanted to ask through the chair if Councilor McCabe had any specific items he had in mind when drafting this motion.
Yeah, just through my looking into other structures there, that there are generally a more fulsome declaration by the municipality about what its intention or purpose of holding this as an asset is. For example, to coincide with our strategic priorities, so that basically it is 100% owned by us right now. Anything that would end up making it so that it is not any longer 100% owned by us could happen down the road, and want to understand that we're doing this for the city of Stratford and the people, the residents of the city of Stratford. That's basically where my concern, but it's articulated. while we're changing the structure, which I agree to, and I think that that's indicated in the province of Ontario right now, that we're also making sure that the whole crowd understands what our priorities are. Thank you.
Councilor Harris?
Yes, the trust, the festival group trusting, so the festival group Holding Incorporated. I'm just tearing this up in my head, they'll have meetings, or these three groups report to them.
They all have meetings and host these subsidiaries.
So the trust company will have,
The trust company is essentially one individual acting on their person, not their title.
Okay.
But it's essentially just to keep that back and forth between the Income Tax Act and if it's payment in lieu of taxes, it's a tax thing, and nothing other.
oh, so they don't have meetings.
They don't have essentially any work over any decision making authority.
And are these meetings open to the public, or are they all?
Not typically.
Okay.
Other questions or comments? Knowing that this will come back to council with legal representation as well. There's nothing further. Thanks for starting the process of this term. Next item.
The motion from Councilor McCabe and Councilor Burbank.
So there's been a motion to the floor by Councilor McCabe. It's been seconded. All question, all in favor? Those debated, that's unanimous. Then.
Through your worship, moving to item 6.2, the communities and blue Serbia Italy trip overview. There is a motion that bar packing and fair swing use members of the communities in blue be heard.
Thank you. Moved by Councilor Burbank, seconded by Councilor Henderson. All in favor? What's the Benny? That's unanimous and carried. Come forward. Welcome. Yeah, welcome back from your journeys and successful communities and groups.
Well, good evening, everyone. We are very privileged to be here tonight to tell you a little bit about communities and bloom and some of our activities. From July 26th to the 27th, the communities and bloom judges will be here looking at our beautiful Stratford. And they'll be evaluating areas such as environmental stewardship, urban forestry, heritage conservation, landscape, community appearance, and a new category they have this year is healthy, livable communities. And we're always striving to make Stratford a better place than it's very beautiful, but we still have lots of things we can still do. Communities in Bloom is much more than a flower competition. It's an opportunity for communities to showcase how they work together to create places that are sustainable, welcoming, vibrant, and resilient. It provides us with an opportunity to tell Stratford's story through the people, partnerships, and initiatives that make our city exceptional.
For more than 3 decades, Stratford has built an outstanding reputation, not only across Canada, but internationally, as a leader in community beautification, environmental stewardship, and civic pride. The invitation we received this spring to participate in the Cervia Città Giardino International Garden Festival in Cervia, Italy, was a direct reflection of that reputation. Stratford was selected to represent Canada, and it was truly an honor to showcase our community on the international stage. Working alongside volunteers from Italy, members of our committee designed and planted a Canadian-inspired garden featuring red and white flowers, flowing stonework, and symbolic red poppy. The poppy was included to honor the Canadian soldiers who fought in the liberation of Italy. Recognizing their courage and sacrifice, and the enduring friendship that grew between our two nations. It was a meaningful reminder that gardens can tell stories, preserve history, and celebrate the lasting bonds between communities and countries. One of the most rewarding moments throughout the week came as visitors stopped to admire our garden and asked, "Where is Stratford?" Well, after telling them this is the home of Justin Bieber, those conversations gave us the opportunity to share far more than our floral display. We spoke about Stratford's world-renowned theatre, our beautiful parks and gardens, our vibrant downtown, our heritage, and the incredible volunteers and community partners who help make our city such a special place. In many ways, we became ambassadors not only for Stratford, but for Ontario and for Canada. Rather than allowing that experience to remain in Italy, we wanted to bring a piece of it home. We encourage everyone to visit the beautiful garden beside the boathouse at Stratford, where the same design has been recreated. It serves as a lasting reminder of Stratford's friendship with Italy and demonstrates how an international collaboration can become something our own residents and visitors can enjoy every day.
Now, as we prepare to welcome the judges to our community, we're also proud that this program continues to support many of Council's own strategic priorities. It highlights our commitment to environmental sustainability, celebrates our heritage, and cultural assets, strengthens tourism and economic development, encourages community partnerships, and ultimately enhances the quality of life for everyone who calls Stratford home. On behalf of the Communities in Bloom Committee, we would like to sincerely thank Council for your continued encouragement and support. Your investment in this program allows Stratford to continue sharing its story on both the national and international stages. Last October, our symposium we were able to showcase Stratford to people all across Canada and beyond, and seeing Stratford through the eyes of other people visiting our community, we found what a gem we really have here. Finally, we would like to encourage everyone, members of City Council, city staff, businesses, community organizations, and residents to help us put Stratford's very best foot forward over the coming weeks. Whether it's tending a garden, I can always use people in the Ted Lowe's Memorial Garden. Over the next weeks, picking up some litter, or just making sure you put it in that garbage can. Welcoming a visitor, or simply taking pride in your neighborhood. Every small act adds up, and we will be sharing those with the judges. Together, those individual efforts are what makes Stratford one of Canada's most admired communities and communities in bloom for more than 30 years, thanks to our former mayor, Ted Lowe's. We look forward to welcoming the judges later this month.
So on behalf of city staff and council, certainly thank you for promoting the beauty in Stratford, for promoting the quality of life in Stratford, and for pieces recognizing those that sacrifice the world for too. And finally, a thank you to Councillor Henderson and Beatty as part of our council, serving on that committee. Committee that welcomes, has an opportunity to travel, but also welcomes to visitors from abroad. So thank you very much. Next item.
Your worship, moving to item 6.3, adjournment to public meetings under the Planning Act. There is a motion that the council meeting adjourn to public meetings under the Planning Act here for members of the public with respect to the following planning applications. Zoning bylaw amendment application Z02-26 for 133 Holmes Street, and zoning bylaw amendment application Z04-26 for block 6371 Ferguson Way, Fairground subdivisions, and to reconvene following the public meetings.
Thank you. Mover files to public meetings. Councillor Burbach will move, second by Councillor Henderson. All in favor? Opposed to any, that's unanimous, carried. So I'll call this first public meeting to order. The purpose of this meeting is to give council and the public an opportunity to hear all interested persons with respect to zone change application Z02-26. The application affects the property with the municipal address of 133 Home Street, Stratford. The order of procedure for this meeting will be as follows. The planner will present the application on behalf of the city, and then the agent for the applicant will provide an overview of the application. Council may ask questions for the purpose of clarifying the application, but are cautioned not to make comments nor to take a position on this application at this public meeting. Then the public will be asked for their presentations, comments, and questions. Questions and comments should be planning related and respectful of council, staff, and members of the public. If a member of the public is interested in providing comments or questions, please raise your hand at the appropriate time. And once acknowledged, I ask that you proceed to the podium by exiting the main chamber doors and coming around to the side door at the podium. The public is advised that if a person has not provided council with oral submissions at a public meeting or written submissions before a bylaw is adopted or a decision is made, the Ontario Land Tribunal has the power to dismiss and appeal. The public is also advised that comments expressed and written material presented are a matter of public record for full disclosure. Are there any questions as to this order of procedure? Seeing none, we will now proceed with this public meeting, and at this time, planner Queen Anne will present on behalf of the city.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of council, staff, and members of the public. My name is Ryan Queenan, and I'm one of the planners for the city, and I'm here to present zone change application Z02-26 for 133 Home Street. Following my presentation, the applicant's agent, Morgan Nyder Patterson, is in attendance to speak to this proposal. As can be seen on the map, the subject lands are located on the east side of Home Street and the south side of Bridges Street. The property contains an existing church that is operated as a place of worship. Surrounding land uses to the north, south, east, and west are entirely low density residential, primarily being single detached dwellings. The application was submitted by Morgan Nyder Patterson on behalf of 10015456888 Ontario Limited. The requested zoning bylaw amendment is to rezone the subject lands from its current residential second density R21 zone to a new site-specific residential second density zone to permit a clinic and an auditorium as additional permitted uses within the existing church building. Additionally, a reduced parking space requirement of 12 spaces is being requested, as 17 spaces are otherwise required for the proposed uses. Information submitted with the application describes the clinic use as being offices for counseling services, the proposed auditorium use occurring during non-peak hours of the clinic. No expansion to the existing building is proposed. Under Schedule A, General Land Use Plan of the city's official plan, the subject land is designated residential area, which allows for a range of dwelling types from single detached and semi-detached dwellings to triplexes, townhouses, and low-rise apartment buildings. Designated residential areas also allow non-residential uses, which are complementary to or compatible with the neighborhood, or which meet neighborhood needs, and which do not individually or cumulatively undermine essential neighborhood qualities. The subject lands are zoned residential second density R21 under the City of Stratford comprehensive zoning bylaw. The R21 zone generally permits low density residential uses. The only permitted non-residential uses being a daycare center, elementary school, and a place of worship. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment would permit additional uses not currently allowed in the R21 zone to reduce the on-site parking supply for the subject lands. The subject application was circulated on June 18th to all required agencies. Comments received from the agencies listed on the screen, also from the clerk's office, to which no concerns or objections were raised during that process. Comments from the city's engineering division and clerk's office were received after formalization of the staff report, so were not included. However, neither have any concerns. Notice of the application was also sent to all property owners within 120 meters on June 18th. And it was included in the June 20th issue of the town crier. There was one written submission received from the public and has been amended in the planning report. The key concerns raised were that land with residential zoning within the city should be used for housing. This comment will be reviewed and addressed in the subsequent evaluation report to be heard at a future council meeting. Your worship, that concludes my presentation and I'm available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Councilor Henderson, go ahead.
How many spots did the church have to have for parking? Were they required to have any?
The previous church,
Right,
I'm unaware of the requirement for parking.
right.
I know they have 10 spaces existing as of right now.
Okay, so they're gonna
Looking
have,
at as well, yes.
but because of what they are, they need to have 17 both.
Exactly, for the auditorium and the uses based on the zoning law requirements, 17 spaces would be required.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Seeing no other questions. At this time, I will introduce Ms. Nadia Patterson. Forward, make presentation on behalf of the applicant.
Hey, good evening, members of councils, neighbors, and members of the community, and it looks like students and parents of students as well. I'm not only a business partner with RGA in the space within, but I also teach at the high school, so I recognize one faces here. For those who are not familiar with RGA and the space within, I'd like to take a moment and explain who we are. RGA and the space within is a locally owned and operated counseling agency that serves Stratford and surrounding communities for over 30 years. And today we have 40 full-time and part-time therapist counselors within our agency, making us one of the largest private mental health providers in the community. We provide counseling and mental health support to children, youth, adults, couples, families, and seniors. And we believe that mental health care isn't just about helping people through crisis, it's also about prevention, education, and building stronger and healthier communities. Thank you for taking the time to hear our application and for considering what this project means, not only for our organization, but for the people who call Stratford home. Today, 1 in 5 Canadians will experience mental health challenges in any given year. And as a community, as our community continues to grow, so does our need for accessible professional counseling. So our vision is not to expand our business, not only to expand our business, but to expand access to these services. The proposed location allows us to remove many of the barriers that prevent people from seeking help. Currently, we're housed on Huron Street and in 2 different buildings, but this building would allow first for accessibility. The building is located first on a bus route, which makes it easier for individuals who may not drive, including youth, seniors, or those facing financial challenges to attend appointments independently. And something I learned about the term auditorium, it's not like a concert hall. It's literally a small gathering space, but according to the language in our bylaws, we each use the word auditorium, not small gathering space. So just to clarify, that's where some of our small group counseling sessions would happen, their workshops, etc. The other exciting part for us is that the building also includes an elevator access, which creates a welcoming community environment for individuals with mobility concerns, disabilities, and temporary injuries. A number of our clients are seniors, and we also work with community living as well. So this makes it a much more accessible building than the one we're currently in. Our vision with this space also includes, like I said, offering group counseling programs, which can reduce wait times while people are able to connect with one another who are facing similar challenges. We also hope to provide small educational workshops for families, community organizations, and local businesses on topics such as resilience, mental health and wellness, suicide prevention, and stress management. Another important aspect of this location for us is privacy. When someone decides to seek counseling, it's often one of the hardest decisions they can make. Having a professional office that offers confidential entrances and a discreet environment allows clients to access service without feeling exposed or stigmatized. The privacy encourages people to seek help earlier before challenges become crises. In addition, we want to be good neighbors and know we can be, especially through our transition. We do not intend to add any major additions or do major renovations on the outside of the building, and therefore the neighbors will not be disrupted by large equipment or changes to the property landscape. Finally, I want to emphasize that this proposal is just about responsible growth. We understand that becoming part of the neighborhood comes with responsibilities, and we're committed to maintaining professional, respectful, and well-managed environment. We've consulted with Caroline Baker and Rudy Spokal, our parking consultant, who both agree that our zoning request is reasonable. Counseling offices are naturally quiet businesses with minimal noise and limited traffic compared to many commercial uses. Our intention is to contribute positively to the neighborhood while providing an essential health service that many residents rely on. And our goal is to continue building relationships within the neighborhood and becoming a trusted community resource. So lastly, this proposal also supports our local economy. The demand for counseling continues to increase. Many organizations are responding by hiring therapists who work exclusively online and outside of our region. And while this does make it accessible, virtual therapy has a place, but we believe there's a tremendous value in investing in local professionals who live here, work here, volunteer here, shop here, and raise their families here. Those with local jobs create local tax revenue, local spending, and local expertise staying within Stratford instead of leaving our community. At some point in our lives, almost every family will be touched by mental health. Approving this rezoning is about more than approving a building. It's about creating greater access to care. It's about supporting local professionals, and it's about investing in health and well-being in our community. So in conclusion, we as a longstanding community organization are asking for the opportunity to increase its impact, and we hope we can see this rezoning as an investment in community well-being. So thank you for your time, your consideration, and the work you do serving our community. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you for the presentation. Questions from council at this time? So thank you for your presentation. Don't go too far because you want to add something at the end. So you can have a seat if you just point back. Not the very good people.
Thank you.
We wouldn't be that mean, Mark. So at this time, are there any presentations, comments, or questions from the public? I see a one from around and all I'm going to do is ask to see a couple more. So let's allow the first individual, and then we'll invite you forward. Thank you. Just provide your name for the record.
My name is Ken Wood, and hello, everybody. I'm gonna do my usual shoot from the hip because I'm honest and I just go from what I believe. I've got concerns about this development because I don't think it should be a commercial development. I think that sort of playing on the heartstrings about mental health issues and healthcare and everything else, frankly, is a little bit disingenuous because our healthcare has suffered traumatically. And I did a little research just recently. When I first came here in 2014, we had 8 psychiatrists, of which 2 were not in the city, and basically commuted and worked out of the hospital. As of today, we have 10 psychiatrists, of which 5 are commuting. And I know all their plates are full. It's really hard to get in to see psychiatrists. And this is universal healthcare. If you want to see a psychiatrist, you're supposed to be able to see it without having to pay. Now, what you're considering, and let's really put the cards on the table, is having a for-profit counseling service. Basically taking a church in a neighborhood area that would be ideal for housing. You had a homelessness protest just before this meeting. And we all know that homelessness is a real problem and affordable housing is difficult. And for all the time I've been here, all the councils and some of the old folks that are still here, we're just pushing for single luxury family homes and condos. You want to build the big houses. And we've had flipping, we've had skyrocketing costs for houses, skyrocketing costs for rent. And you're finding that a lot of people are starting to join the homeless army. In my own building, I won't mention where I am, but everybody knows. We have had a lot of evictions that have added to the homelessness situation. We desperately need some kind of affordable housing. You have a church, and it was commented, oh, it's great, it's got an elevator. Well, there's a lot of people that are homeless that use elevators too. You have a lot of seniors homeless. I think the average, I might be wrong on this, but I think the national average is something around 16% nationwide. Seniors are homeless, and it's a growing thing. You have got the opportunity here, especially since council has elected to take short-term gains over long-term planning by selling off all our public land. That's all been done. We don't have any public land left, is my understanding. I'd like to be somebody to point me out where that is, because I understand it's all been sold for industry, for commercial. The zoning that we have a zoning plan, and we're not listening to it. What kind of city do you want to build? You want to have a city where you've got residents that can live in this city. We need a whole transitional set of housing options. We need rooming houses. We need transitional housing. We need tiny homes. I know the mayor's against tiny homes. But every other city in the North American continent is exploring that.
Yeah.
We have an immediate need. And I think that this is something that you should really give some sober second thought about. If the space within needs extra space, there's a lot of commercial stuff sitting there empty right now. You've got buildings and areas, and people are just speculating with the land. And it's coming back to bite us. So I'm basically asking on behalf of people who are unhoused, who are precariously housed, who are being evicted even from city housing, that we start thinking about the residents here. We need a labor force here. We need a whole host of different kinds of housing here. And we got to stop this one track. Let's build something expensive. Thank you very much.
Reminding the public that no decisions will be made tonight on this, and for our speakers acknowledge, I have 2 tiny homes on my property that perhaps would be put to use at some time, so I'm not sure where that point came from, but just come forward and state your name. And once again, please ensure that it's related to this application of this.
My name is Ambassador Alexander Epic Bergsma. I'm a Stratford, long-time born and raised. I am here to talk about on behalf of small tonight. A lot of the residents are concerned in regards to how the zone is being used, and they are asking for this to be used for housing. The second thing is that our youth, the second leading cause of death in our youth is mental health. Yet the first barrier to accessing supports is financial. We can't afford it. A lot of our residents in our city, who are youth, cannot afford to live. This is a crippling thing that we see across Canada. Yet what are we doing about it? We keep claiming that it's provincial or federal. The United Nations Youth and the United Nations Youth of Office on mental health have spoken in regards to this. We condemn the city for this bylaw. if there is not a plan in place to be able to make it accessible so that people can afford it. The second thing is that I urge you to listen to your residents. We keep ignoring them. They keep telling you the same things. Yet, which do you prioritize, profit or the people? They're asking you if this is being challenged, that they're asking for a housing. They're asking for it to be used for housing. And if you put it through, what is your plan to get this housing under control? Because it will become a litigation issue on a national and international level if it is not managed. I promise you that. We, the youth, will not put up with this. And I think I speak on behalf of Stratfordians youth tonight. This cannot continue. So, you're left with two choices. If you put this through, what is your plan to make sure that youth are able to access the mental health supports that they need in the city for free, low cost, so that they can afford it, be working with low income families so that they can afford the counseling that they need? And if you decide to deny this, then what is your plan to be able to put this towards housing? Thank you.
Any other? Please. Yes. Yeah. State your name.
My name is Tatiana Kalinovska, and I come to this community 2 years ago, hoping that this community will become my home. After I survived bombing in Ukraine, after I survived running away from there and went through several countries, till I come back to Canada, which is my homeland, according to my passport. I'm Canadian citizen. I come here first time in '89. And now I'm living in housing 2 years. Last year, I was triggered by housing and which tried to kick me out, evict me for basically no reason at all. It's happening again, and it's happening to many people in this town. And this is total disgrace. And right now I'm talking to you as human to humans, not authority, not like we all are people. And I was rich once before. And I know how it feels to live on the streets. I was homeless in Toronto when I come back to Canada from Europe because Europe could not keep me there because Canada is a better country according to international rules. And now I'm being threatened to be kicked on the street. What?
Can you relate your conversation to this application at this time?
I think it is obvious that we need to stop working on a business in this town and start paying a little bit more attention to people who less fortunate than people like you are, Berwinsman. Because there is this Grand Throne issue up there, and there is a whole bunch of homeless people beside the Grand Throne. That's a shame for Canada.
Once again, I want you to pertain your comments to this application.
My comments to this application is the same thing. I agree with two previous speakers that we need more affordable homes, we need affordable counseling in this town. And it's wonderful that we have all this ability to participate in Italy with our flowers and stuff. But I cleaned up flower beds around my place where I live. And I was harassed for that by housing. I would like all these matters to be looked into. And affordable housing need to be taken care of in this town, and it needs to be taken care very seriously, because it's not a problem that people come here from another cities and they ended up homeless. Those people are few. I talk to many homeless people. They're local.
And the main problem here is the housing itself, which keeps for people on the street. You're welcome. I hope people here understand what I'm talking about and reach out to the human side inside the heart. If there is any. Because people who kick other people on the street because they have too much stuff or whatever, that's not humanity. That's not human at all.
I'm gonna ask you this time to step away from people.
You're welcome.
Do you have any other comments or questions or presentations? Yes, come forward, please. Just state your name for what please.
Hello, my name is Zach Singer. I'm a member of the youth of Stratford. I want to come into this saying I am working with RGA. I'm in therapy with RGA. I've been dealing with 1.5 years of extreme mental illness. I have, of course, 4 suicide attempts on myself, and I'm still suffering. I see every day as torture, and I don't want to be here. I live for the reason of my little sister. However, I'm saying, as someone that suffers through all that, this building should not be used for therapy. This building needs to be used for the unhoused. Sure, 1 of 5 privileged people struggle with mental health. 5 of 5 homeless folks struggle with mental health. What's the real problem, right? Or are you guys gonna be so selfish to take it for yourself, you know? So I want to know, how do you think this building could more benefit the privileged population than the unhoused? Right, so that's what I thought. So that's all I'm gonna say. I think that to pass this would be a disgrace. And I think that for the amount of time that the unhoused have been not spoken for, I'll say it's affected my mental health extremely. And both my parents work social work, my dad worked for CMHA for a little bit. They both have delved into helping the unhoused. And by the way, my mom, through her help with the unhoused, was then threatened because she was helping the unhoused, right? Your priorities are not certain. And I have no shame saying. You guys are not speaking for us, you're speaking for yourselves. The fact that we have to go through a city council is not how it should be. I should be able to show up to this podium any day of the week and talk. Right? Any questions? No? You guys have nothing to say. Because there's still unhoused folks out there that are sleeping in tents. And you guys have nothing to say about that?
Councilor Anderson.
To the mayor, I just want to let you know that this is a public meeting, and what we're doing is listening to everybody's concerns, and then that'll all be addressed in the report and come back. And that's why we're not really saying anything, is because it's important to hear what you have to say.
Right, right. So I'm asking right now a question, and that is, how do you guys think that this building would benefit the privileged population more than the unprivileged?
We're not allowed to
Mr.
speak opinion yet.
Mr.
till the
Stinger,
report comes.
just through the motion that we read out, the order of procedure, council aren't allowed to take a side at this meeting. They hear, and then at our future meeting, which you're welcome to attend.
I'm not asking for any sides, I'm asking a question.
But that's it.
And we can't give you an answer to that.
I'm asking a question about how there would be a difference in like how it would benefit the privileged
Once
population.
again, council cannot take a position.
Okay, I am not asking for them to say yes or no. I'm asking a question about how this building would help the privileged more than the unprivileged.
And once again, we'll allow in the meeting, the applicant for this particular project to speak for that. Council will speak to that. Thank you.
Thank you, the people.
There are comments, questions from the public at this time. Last opportunity, any other comments or questions at this time? Thank you. So at this time, I'm going to welcome the applicant board. If there's a few comments that you want to make to address the comments that were made here this evening. The floor is yours again.
Okay, I should have been taking some notes, this is my first time. Okay, so first to Ken, your question was about, why this property, is that true?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This kind of question, you got engaged with going back and forth. You answer the question.
Okay.
Engage going back.
So the first question was why this property? And for us, like I said, we're in 2 locations on Huron Street, which are zoned residential and commercial, but they do have rental residential property in them. Us leaving opens up 2 spaces there or multiple, depending how the landlord decides to work that. Why did we pick this location? Like I said in our talk, there is one, the accessibility was huge. So one, for people who have mobility issues, that they would be able to access our services within the building. We have a number of therapists who are giving seniors therapy, counseling, and accessibility is a huge issue for them. So that was one of the main reasons for this building. And then the second 2, I don't think I provided this in the initial conversation, but we do provide, this isn't a get rich plan for us, but we do provide a lot of affordable counseling for our clients, and so they can be referred through healthcare services, different agencies within town, and we do pro bono work as well. And so definitely for seniors on a fixed income, where they are putting that money towards housing rather than and I also want to say too, I understand that this is a really hot topic, one that I also am passionate about, and am actively involved in both on a personal level and helping other organizations in the community make sure that we're helping our unhoused. And so I see both points here and acknowledge that we have a big issue in Stratford that seems to be getting bigger. And our intention by taking this is not to displace unhoused people. We're very compassionate and looking to help with that scenario. This initially my first thought was like, what if somebody buys this property? It was affordable for us to buy, which was big. And what if somebody buys this and turns this into a beautiful single dwelling residence that a missed opportunity? So I was looking at it from that perspective, or we were looking at it from that perspective, as opposed to creating potentially a housing situation, but we didn't have all of the details there. So that was our intention for why this building. And then to Tanner's point and to Zach's point, but sorry I did it again, but first off, I have to say, as a former teacher of theirs, that I'm very proud of them for voicing their concerns and getting involved in social justice issues. So thank you. And I think that it's really important that sometimes you can have differing opinions and still create community and be on the same page. So thank you for voicing your opinions and your thoughts. They're well founded. And so to your point, Tanner, I was in a position where I was offering coaching services to students who needed coaching for academic coaching, life coaching, etc., dealing with mental health issues, etc. And what I noticed was there was a lot of stigma around that, and that they couldn't access the services because their parents were like, you gotta go talk to a counselor. And so then oftentimes that created a barrier. And so what ended up happening for me was I was like, how can I make this successful? And thankfully, I'm an educator and was able to create a course where we're now offering mental health. Positive psychology and well-being in the classroom, and we've been able to reach at least 120 kids a year in that program. And so we're trying, and that's me as an RGA partner, as well as an educator, trying to merge two worlds together. And say that yes, we do have a mental health crisis for teenagers, and it's heartbreaking. And the world definitely needs young people like you and you. And part of our passion is to be able to provide accessible services for our teenagers. The partners that are here are very passionate about young people's mental health and providing a space where we have an auditorium in the basement where we can provide a spot for young people to come and do teen group counseling. We can offer workshops for those who can't take my course in high school. And provide a community is really important, and that goes back to the point of why we chose this building. And the last point why we chose this building is it is in amongst the public, and the recommendation was we could go somewhere commercial, but somebody might not be able to access the commercial. And where we're situated is there is a lot of government housing, and what if we could be a spot to offer support because you could walk to your neighbors to get that support. And so I think that there's a way for us to do a win-win here. It's not perfect, and we never will get to perfect unless we can get all our heads together and think outside the box. So hopefully I've answered all of your questions. If you have any questions, you're more than welcome to reach out to me or any of the other partners. And we'd love to show you what we have as a space and what the vision is. And if you can see and put some ideas in there too, we'd love to hear what you have to say. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Lady closing council, city council intends to consider this application at a future regular council meeting. Members will have an opportunity for full discussion after reviewing comments received from the public at this time. If anyone would like to receive further notice of this matter, please email clerks@stratford.ca. A video of this meeting will be posted to the city's website. This public meeting is adjourned.
Martin, just before we adjourn, I just had one more.
Yes, go ahead.
So just to clarify, even if it comes back and it's recommended that we change this to R2 zoning, and at some point in time, they decide to sell their business and move, somebody can still buy that and build a home there, right?
Your worship, that's correct.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand.
That's okay.
Okay, so we will move into the second meeting. I will call the public meeting to order. The purpose of this meeting is to give the council and public an opportunity to hear all interested persons with respect to zone change application 604-26. The application affects the properties with municipal addresses of 2 to 68, 3 to 39, and 47 to 57. Ferguson Way, Stratford. The order of procedures for this meeting will be as follows. The manager of planning will present the application on behalf of the city, and then the agent of the applicant will provide an overview of the application. Council may ask questions for the purpose of clarifying the application, but are cautioned not to make comment nor take a position on this application at this public meeting. Then the public will be asked for their presentations, comments, and questions. Questions and comments should be planning related and respectful of council, staff, and members of the public. If a member of the public is interested in providing comments or questions, please raise your hand at the appropriate time. And once again, you can proceed to the podium by entering the main entrance and coming to the side door and walking up to the podium. The public is advised that if a person has not provided council with oral submissions at a public meeting, or written submissions before a bylaw is adopted or a decision is made, the Ontario Land Tribunal has the power to dismiss an appeal. The public is also advised that comments expressed in the written material presented are a matter of public record for full disclosure. Are there any questions as to the order of this procedure? Seeing none, we will now proceed with the public meeting. And I see Mr. Bancroft is at the podium, manager of planning, and I welcome him to make presentation on behalf of the city.
Thank you. Good evening, your worship, members of council, members of the public, staff. My name is Mark Bancroft, manager of planning for the city, and I'm here to present application for zoning bylaw amendment section 04-26 for properties situated on blocks 63 to 71 Ferguson Way. Following my presentation, the applicant's agent, Kristen Barisdale from GSP Group, is in attendance to speak to this proposal. As shown on the map, subject lands comprise 9 separate lots located on the east and west sides of Ferguson Way, north of Britannia Street and south of Cottle Way in the Fairground subdivision. These lands are vacant except for one parcel subject to a townhouse dwelling under construction with the foundation board. Surrounding land uses include to the north as well as to the east, vacant lands. To the west, we have residential uses in the form of single detached dwellings. And to the south, we have residential in the form of low-rise apartments. The purpose and effect of this application is to modify the zoning of the subject lands to allow additional zoning provisions to the current R4-26 zone by increasing the maximum lot coverage to facilitate the construction of street townhouse dwellings. Specifically, the requested provisions would permit for the main residential use increased maximum lot coverage of 45%, whereas the current zoning permits a maximum of 40%. Also, to permit an increased maximum lot coverage of 50% for all buildings and structures. That's the main use along with accessory uses, whereas the current zoning provision permits a maximum of 45%. Under the city's official plan, these lands are designated residential area as well as special policy area 16. Permitted uses within that designation permit a range of housing types, including street townhouse dwellings. The subject lands are also zoned area specific residential fourth density R4-26 under the city's comprehensive zoning bylaw. The zoning also permits a range of housing types, including street townhouse dwellings. The subject application was circulated on June 18th to all required agencies with comments received from the agencies listed on the screen, and overall no concerns or objections were raised by those agencies. Notice of the application was also sent on June 18th to all property owners within 120 meters of the subject lands. Notice was also provided in the town crier in the June 20th edition, and to date, no formal comments have been received from the public. And your worship, that concludes my presentation this evening. I'm available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Any questions from Councilor Anderson?
To the mayor. So I'm just trying to clarify this. They're asking to increase it to 45%. Does this mean they're gonna be building more homes because they're gonna do townhouses instead of single homes?
Through your worship, it's not as if there's gonna be any additional units constructed.
There's gonna cover more space.
It's gonna cover more space, and the issue is because these lots, once the foundations are poured, the units, the lands are to be further subdivided so that each unit is fully contained on a separate parcel of land. And so the issue with coverage primarily deals with interior units So those interior units or lots, they're not gonna have side yards, they're only gonna have a front yard and a rear yard. And because of that, that's why we have issues related to coverage. And hence the requirement to apply for this zone change.
So they'll have. More area to get around if we do that or less?
Well, they'll have the same area to get around, but ultimately for those interior units, they're taking up more space compared to exterior units or the end units. Because those end units will have a side yard to go around. So it's really just become a coverage issue with those end units. It's more so with respect to the interior units.
So will the units in the middle have access to their backyard, like, or, like, I remember my stepdaughter bought, a house and. She had to carry the lawnmower through the house because she couldn't get to her backyard, so are they gonna have a path along the back that they're gonna be able to?
Yes, so through your worship, those matters, Councillor Henderson, will be capable of being addressed through parliamentary exemption, a future process in that regard.
Any other questions from council at this time? Seeing none, we invite everybody. So, okay, at this time, we'll invite Barrisdale, agent for the applicant, forward and make presentation.
Yeah.
For yours.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. My name is Kristen Barrisdale. I'm from DSP Group, and we are the agents acting on behalf of the current property owner, Warner Bromberg, with regards to the proposed zone change application in front of you this evening. I'll my presentation will be brief. Mr. Bancroft has done a pretty good job of summarizing what it is we're looking for. Property was the former fairground site, as you can see here, in the aerial photograph. It is part of the larger, subdivision, draft plan subdivision, situated on Britannia Street. With the sports complex located to the north of the property. And as you can see, and as I'm sure you're well aware of the site, it's predominantly surrounded by existing low-rise residential uses. Next slide, please. As touched on by Mr. Bancroft, the site is zoned, or excuse me, designated for low-rise residential purposes. And particularly this portion of the site is zoned R4, which would permit street fronting townhouses. Next slide, please. This is the registered draft plan of subdivision. So this property was initially subject to its first round of applications in 2019 and 2020. We came forward with official plan amendment, zone change application and draft plan of subdivision to establish the draft plan of subdivision that you see on the screen. It is a combination of street fronting townhouses, single detached lots, semi-detached lots, and then there's one future multiple block, which is intended to accommodate cluster townhouses or possibly a low-rise apartment. What you see on the screen here is identifying the blocks that are subject to this application only. So as Mr. Bancroft noted, we've submitted an application to slightly enlarge or increase the percent of coverage for these properties. Again, only intended to apply to the street townhouse blocks, 63 through 71. Next slide, please. Again, we are asking for a maximum coverage of 45 meters for the house itself, whereas the current zoning bylaw permits 40. And we're asking for the main residential use combined with an accessory structure, so this would be a shed, would have a maximum coverage of 50%, whereas the current zoning bylaw permits a maximum of 45% for those 45% for those two combined uses. I did want to point out that we are not proposing to make any other changes to the zoning bylaw. We will continue to abide by the existing regulations of the bylaw with regards to front yard setbacks, side yard setbacks, building height, etc. So the street frontage as well as the rear yards will continue to appear similar to the surrounding types of uses. Next slide, please. And just a quick synopsis, in support of the application, we submitted a planning justification report. It is my opinion that the proposed application for zoning bylaw amendment is consistent with the PPS, as it maintains compatibility with surrounding residential uses and provides for intensification that makes use of existing services. It conforms with the existing city of Stratford official plan as complies with policy objectives and developing criteria for new residential development within existing areas, as well adheres to all the requirements of special policy area 16. It complies with the zoning bylaws and provides for residential uses that are consistent with size, scale, and massing to the surrounding residential uses. And it is appropriate in terms of site suitability and context. And that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions.
Presentations, questions from the council at this time. Councilor Burback.
Thank you for the chair. So just to clarify, when this came before us the last time, it looked very similar. So what you're doing is just asking for those. So you're not changing the design basically of what goes in. It's just a matter of the percentages for those central units. Is that correct?
Through the mayor, yes, exactly. The layout of the subdivision, the blocks themselves are not changing. The standards as it appears on the street to the garages, the driveways, the side yard setbacks. None of that is changing. It's simply the building coverage, as Mr. Bancroft touched on. It really has to do with those internal units.
Thank you. And the size of those units hasn't really substantially changed.
No.
Thank you.
Comments or questions at this time for the applicant? Agent four. Go ahead, Councilor Henderson.
Through the mayor, I'm asking you the same question that I asked him about access to the backyards because you'll know more.
Through you, Mayor.
You're going to need to decide plans for.
Yes, so that is a problem that started happening when town homes were first developed and they were put in place and then nobody really thought about that. Now we find that municipalities, including the city of Stratford, are very regimented in terms of ensuring that we're providing access to the rear yards, direct access to the rear yard. So there's a number of different ways in which that can be accommodated. We will have to go through a park lot control application to subdivide these lots, and as part of that park lot control application, it's my expectation that the city will require an easement along the rear property line so that, and along the side, so that people can take their lawnmowers around side properties and get access to their internal units. It really only affects those units that are internal to the site, where the side yard obviously has access, but absolutely, it's our expectation that there will be something in place to ensure that people don't have to carry their lawnmowers.
I thought that would happen, so I'm sure. All right, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? This time. Seeing none, thank you. At this time, are there any comments, questions from the public? Please come forward. Well, we're going to state your name.
Hello, I'm Ken Wood, and I live at 230 Britannia. So I look out my bedroom window and I see that location. The first thought that comes to mind is, are the prices going to go up for these street townhomes because you're increasing the lot size? I can tell you that a lot of people walk dogs along that area. All the way from Briar Hill, my building, the other building, there's dogs all over the place. So this is a kind of a walkable neighborhood, I guess I can call it. And basically, I'm a little concerned that there's a little bit of shuffling going on. Somebody in the audience asked me, why don't they learn to design these places right the first time? And I can't agree with that. Because what you get is bait and switch stuff with some of these developers. They'll come and they'll give you something and they'll say townhouses, oh great, that's residential, that's gonna give us maybe some affordable housing and stuff. Okay, now they want to increase the lot size, for what purpose? I know in Toronto, and I'm sure nobody here who's lived here long-term realizes the lack of space in Toronto. But if you've got like 3 meters between houses, you can push your lawn into the backyard, you don't have to go through the house. That seems like a really strange thing. And I know that area intimate. I've walked my dog Bucky that area. And I've gone down the back lanes and everything. So I kind of surveyed it eyes first. And I think you need to leave it the way it is. Because it makes sense to have the townhouses there, and hopefully you're not gonna have, you know, more cars going through there, because right now what you built is an expressway to the rotary. And a little concerned about it. It's nicely built, I gotta give you that. It's really nicely built, a double line boulevard in the center, so there's some really good things that are happening. But I would ask questions about, you know, why are you wanting to increase percentages? Are you increasing prices? And I don't know the history of Werner Bromberg, but I understand he passed away, and that Mr. Hyde is now doing the construction work there. That's what I'm hearing. I don't know if that's true. It's very hard to find these facts out as a member of just the public. So just think about it, you know, that I might be a minor niggling thing, but every time a developer comes and says, well, I want to change this a little bit, what's in it for them? Please start asking that. Thank you. That's it.
Any other comments or questions from the public at this time? Yes, please come. Please state your name for the record.
My name is Ed, I'll speak 23 Briar Drive, Stratford. Thank you. Zoning and planning bylaws were developed and meant for the pleasure and the general standard of living for the people of the community. And city council, planning department, that's part of your job to look after having a set of standards and put them on paper. They're called planning bylaws, etc. Now, what happens is developers come along and they want to squeeze. And let's modify this or change that, you know, and the end result for them is they're in business to make money. They're not in business to satisfy our living needs in the future after that. And I've seen that in other places, and that's just a fact in a way of life. And everybody should realistically realize that. And when you guys make planning and zoning bylaws, why is it that the developer comes in on the last minute here and wants to change this or modify that, etc., where before the official plans were fine and okay and made up to a good standard as they were supposed to be developed. And my point is that I feel we're being abused by this process, the way this occurs. This was on not just Stratford, all municipalities. The developers get, I think, too much say over of the taxpayers that own the properties. And I'm in objection to the way things are done. I don't think there should be all these modifications made, you know, after something officially comes out. I mean, if it was something like for a fire department or something that had to be done for everybody's common good, fine. But when you start modifying this, changing this size for this, the lot here, a little bit there, you know, we're starting to get fiddly in the wrong direction, and that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you for your words. Any other comments or questions at this time? Please come forward. Please state your name for the record.
My name is Bonnie Hanson. I live at 29 Bradfield Drive in Stratford. And my comments are about this change. I also have a few other comments I'd like to make. Pertaining to the last lady that spoke and said that the townhouses, the inner townhouses would have access. They would be able to go down the side and across bottom. and get into their backyard. Well, my question is, originally there's supposed to be a swale there. Am I still correct about that? Because we get a lot of water runoff. My backyard floods regularly in the spring and winter.
And the manager of planning comes forward, will address that.
Because I wanna. Do you be assured that there will be a swale there? Because. Looking at the townhouses that are now being built. Just down from our residence. There sure isn't very much room between the back of that townhouse. And the fence that is there now. So that's a concern for me. I also would like to state that I have made several calls to the bylaw office in Stratford. And I was assured that this matter would be taken care of. I'd like to state that Bromberg and company has not complied to the city bylaw regarding noxious weeds. And I'd like to know when that will be resolved. Because the way it is now, all my neighbors are getting weeds coming through the fence, particularly thistles. And when I walk the dog, I can go all the way down to Braemar, and there's thistles coming through everybody's flower beds. I was assured that that would be taken care of. I would like to be assured that it will be taken care of because it's an absolute mess. If anybody drives past and looks down from Britannia, it's atrocious. We have weeds that are waist high right behind our property. Okay, and another point to that too is that according to the news, the ticks are really bad this year. And so Bromberg has left us 18 inches behind the fence. But we have no access to that 18 inches, so we have to climb over that fence to get to it because nobody's caring for it. So we have to care for it and take our weed whackers back there and try and get rid of that. Our 18 inches full of thistle weeds. But it's also a concern of mine because ticks are really bad this year. And that's just a breeding ground for ticks back there. So that was a concern. Also, my allergies are pretty bad because it's all allergy inducing weeds back there. My last point is the day they came and took over 100 mature trees down in the pot. Broke all our hearts. We fought that. I think each of our neighbors or my neighbors spent close to a few $1,000 trying to fight this. But my point is, it sat there since the days they took all those trees down, empty. But it's a dirt pile. So I just want to say to the city, really, you gotta watch what you're agreeing to. So it really affects the residents on my street and all around that area. Is that? Thank you very much.
For your words. Any other comments, questions from the audience? Thank you. Please come forward. Well, and just, you don't have to state your address, just for me.
Okay, I'm Gary Robinson, longtime resident of Stratford. I live in a townhouse that I have a causeway in my backyard. My land stops, but I still own 3 or 4 feet back. But the causeway is there so that if the fire department has to get in there, they get in there. The other thing I don't understand is, you wanna build more houses. There's all kinds of houses out on the rec complex. They're building 3 big apartment buildings. Why are we not building something for the people that are living on the street? Like, you have a lot, why didn't the city of Stratford buy the property and build something for the people that need it? Like, we don't need any more housing, there's all kinds of houses out across from the rec center that are sitting there, land empty. They're building more going towards Gads Hill. Like, how many houses are we short of houses in Stratford, or are we short of places for people to live? I can afford to live. Like, I know we're building the ones on lower that Queens are sorry. By the circle. By where I'm trying to think of. Where the rotary used to be, and they have those houses. But we have to concern more about the people. You drive down the street and there are tents there. I've heard that people can't afford to rent. So they're living in tents and people need housing. And I don't understand why there's no housing. Like, you people that are out here, you need to start building houses. I know that when I lived on Freeland, when they first started that subdivision, they built for battered wives, and they built and made it so that everything was townhouses. They built semis, and built everything so that no one would be, their land property wouldn't drop. So everyone was considered in there. I don't understand why we're not building more places for these people. Like, I don't understand, and I'm asking council and the mayor and that why we're not doing something more. Like, why are we building more houses? Let's build like a townhouse or something that houses 10 or 12 people, that we can get them in there. I don't, can anybody explain that to me?
I'll turn it back this, and next council meeting, we're gonna address that, but one of the projects on the roll is a 12-million permanent support of housing on Erie Street. That's.
But Martin, there's more than 12 people that need residents.
Yes, I know.
In the winter, we're now into July, we're gonna get into August, then we're gonna get into winter.
And we're gonna have that discussion in the next council meeting. Sure. I appreciate your comments.
And I really
thank you, sir. Thank you. Just comments or questions from the public at this time? Seeing none, it's comments, when you're planning, there might be a couple of items there that you can address. And also to the agent of the applicant, if you have any final comments as well, we'd welcome you forward.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to quickly, if I could, provide some clarification, some of the points that were raised. Mr. Wood had the concern about increasing lot sizes. So I want to be clear with council that this is not a proposal to increase lot sizes. The lot sizes are to remain the same as how they were approved through the registered plan. It is adjustments to the lot coverage that is being proposed. The other concern that was raised about drainage, about a swale along the mutual lot line. Your worship, I want to be clear that there's a requirement, a building permit stage for an engineered lot grading plan to ensure that there's no adverse impacts with respect to neighboring lands, and that all the stormwater needs to be wholly contained on individual parcels. So that there's no discharge of stormwater onto neighboring lands. In terms of the concern that was raised about noxious weeds, the developer is bound by the obligations under the subdivision agreement, and staff will certainly be investigating that matter to ensure that there is compliance. Just in conclusion, Your Worship, I will be providing an evaluation report for City Council's consideration at a future meeting. So I will certainly be reviewing all the comments received and addressing those through my evaluation and recommendation. Thank you.
And I'll ask the agent for the applicant to address a few comments as well.
I don't really have much to say. Mr. Bancroft did a great job at addressing them. I just wanted to reiterate the intent of this application. We're not changing the unit mix. We're not changing the unit count. We're not proposing any more units. We're not proposing any less units. The makeup of the subdivision is intended to stay as it was approved 6 years ago. This is simply just a reflection, as we discussed, of some of the nuances that happen when we get into detailed design and how those internal units function. But like I said, Mr. Bancroft answered most of the questions how I would get to them, so I don't really have any.
So city council intends. Councilor Henderson.
You should know I have tons of questions. So sometimes when you're coming for these zoning changes. My understanding is the reason is maybe you put a balcony on or a porch on, so now you have more coverage. Is that some of the reasons?
For you, Mr. Mayor, so as I noted in my initial presentation, this application was first brought forward 2019, 2020. Which doesn't seem like a long time ago, but that was pre-COVID. As we know, the world has changed a lot. And as we get into more of the detailed design and understanding of what potential purchasers want, there is tweaking that happens to the units themselves, placing them on the lots, making sure we're accommodating the unit range that was initially approved. So some of those refinements are related to simple things like a porch or a balcony that extends or a deck that extends. And some of them are simply refinements because of the way the layout is on the inside and making sure that, again, we're still adhering to the setback requirements. So we're still meeting the minimum front yard setback, we're still meeting the minimum rear yard setback, but to accommodate the block as it's been designed on the site, requires some tweaks to those internal lots.
Thank you.
Councilor Bean.
Thank you. Through the mayor, just to. What I'm understanding, and I feel like what the questions are just are kind of different, I like. The coverage of a lot is just because the buildings are actually attached, there's no space between them, so in essence, it's covering more of the lot because they are one long building, not separate individuals. So it's not that they're wanting to make the houses bigger to make more money, it's simply that the buildings are attached to each other, so there aren't any side yards. Is that like this? That's what I'm understanding. I just want to clarify that that's accurate.
Through you, Mayor, that's correct. And I must admit that perhaps there was a small error. We made our initial application to the city in 2019. We had asked for these conditions, or we had asked for these requirements. And as we went through the process and were dealing with a number of issues that came up and a number of tweaks that had to happen, this kind of fell off the radar in terms of what we were originally asking for. The bylaw went forward as approved as per the standard zoning bylaw. And then once they started putting pen to paper, if you will, in terms of the townhouse design, we realized that there was an oversight, that we didn't actually carry that through from our initial application.
Thank you. Anything further? Seeing none,
Thank you
very much. City council intends to consider this application at a future regular council meeting where members will have an opportunity for full discussion after reviewing comments received from the public at this time. If anyone would like to receive further notice of this matter, please email clerks@stratford.ca. A video of this meeting will be posted to the city's website. Before I adjourn, I want to thank the public. It is a public meeting because we invite public to ask questions and make comments. So thank you for being here tonight. That information is taken back to staff, to the agents, and will be sussed out as we go to the council meeting, the open council session. So thank you for that. So at this time, this public meeting is adjourned. And I'm wondering if through agenda hand signal, you could be a first base or third base hand signal from Councilor Henderson for a little break here. So a little bio break. And if we can, reconvene at 2 minutes after.
Seven orders of the day. Item 7.1 is the grant from renewal community facility for participation framework and partnership interest process. The corporate initiative C is present today to provide an overview.
Thank you for your patience, Ms. Lawson, before yours.
Great, thank you so much to the mayor. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and to share with council and the public the report that's in front of you today on our Grand Trunk Community Facility Framework and partnership interest process. So this report in front of you is about one particular aspect of the Grand Trunk renewal project, and that's the community facility. Before I continue, I just do want to acknowledge the conversation here tonight around housing and affordable housing, and I want to remind everybody we're talking about a community facility right now, but housing and residential development and affordable housing are also key components of this project. So today we're talking about our community facility, which again will serve a variety of folks across Stratford and beyond. But this is not to lose sight of the need for housing and affordable housing to be achieved at this site. So I just wanted to share that. I'm gonna share a couple of things tonight and go over a few things. In particular, I want to talk about why this process or partnership interest process is needed now. What it does and doesn't do as a process, what the participation categories that we've articulated are, the assessment process that is described in the report and the appendices, view panel that we're proposing, and some of the process safeguards that we've outlined. Council has already directed staff to proceed with developing the shared community facility. As you'll recall back from the end of April, there was a discussion around a shared community facility, our investment as a city in this, and to work with the library and the YMCA in developing this shared community facility. So it's already underway, and for the purpose of our discussion tonight and the report in front of you, we're referring to those organizations, the city, the YMCA, and the Stratford Public Library as foundational partners. The Y has been part of this conversation, as many of you know, for many, many years, and the library kind of more recently, but then formalized a bit more formally through an MOU process that's being undertaken right now. So we've got direction to proceed with the development of this shared community facility, and those include things like, what is the facility concept? Like, how do the partners work together? What kinds of things are going to be delivered in this facility? How do we operate that as a shared endeavor? It's not just a library, it's not just a YMCA, it's not just a city facility. We're creating something new here where we're partnering together. But before we can answer some of those questions and proceed with more detailed analysis of those things, we really need to ask ourselves, like, this is a shared community facility, but shared among whom? So right now we have the partners I've listed as foundational partners, but the question of the process and the framework that I've included in this management report, what that is about, is trying to answer that question. Should there be any other organizations sitting at the table, the foundational partners that we currently have? So a couple of things, what you're being asked to kind of provide direction on today. So you're being asked to provide direction on the framework for participation, the framework in front of you, and that process for partnership interest. This is really to kind of accept or to provide direction on the participation categories, the assessment criteria that's in that framework, the review panel, and the process that we've outlined, the process safeguards. So we're looking for your direction on the community facility participation framework, this partnership interest process, which is exploratory and non-binding, and we're looking for council tonight to appoint a member to sit on our review panel. And I'll talk, or the review panel for this project or this aspect of the project, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. And I just want to emphasize tonight, we're not You're not having to like do anything super formal, meaning there's no MOUs, we're not deciding who's getting space, we're not deciding who's funding allocations. It's really just about the process that's outlined in front of you. A little bit about why the partnership process, like what it does and doesn't do. It creates what it does is it creates a structured way for organizations to articulate their interest in a shared community facility. So what do they imagine doing in a shared community facility, and how do they imagine doing that? So what it does on our end is to help us determine which organizations or organizations should be participating and can be participating with the city and the library. The idea here is that we can do this work, we have this process, we have a review panel, and we come back to council with some recommendations about those potential participating partners. We're not choosing a new partner tonight. It doesn't mean that because we do this process that we automatically have a foundational partner that comes out of that. We're not getting workspace or funding. It is really an exploratory process that comes back to you for your consideration. And really this is very similar to the spirit in which the city, the library, and the YMCA have been working together, where our MOUs are really about engaging in this exploratory conversation together, thinking about how a shared community facility work, how it will be funded, and how each organization can contribute to the aspirations that we have for it as a community. I'll say a couple of things just high level about the participation categories and the assessment process. So as many of you know, and I see folks in the room, there's a lot of interest in a shared community facility at the Grand Trunk. And there's lots of different interests from different areas of our community, but not all that interest is the same. Not everyone's interested in the same things out of this community facility, and they're not interested in the same ways of participating. So what the framework in front of you does is to try to stream that interest into a couple pretty different categories. So at a high level, we've got foundational partners, and that's like the YMCA or library in the city, and there's a certain kind of level of engagement that we are considering altogether. How does the funding work? How does the governance work? That type of thing. We also have organizations who are interested in using potential space at a shared community facility, who are interested in understanding how shared space can be really useful to them and have great perspectives on what would need to be true in such a space to make it useful. And so we've categorized those as facility users. And there's lots of opportunity we see moving forward for engagement with those folks, but that's kind of down the line. We're actually coming up with how this space works and what's contained in it and how it might operate. There's also lots of folks, organizations, and individuals who are not necessarily looking for dedicated space, looking to book space, but they're really interested in the kinds of things that we anticipate being delivered out of a community facility. Like we've heard, like many have here, about the need for a pool. We know the amazing programming that the library does and the collaboration that they have. So there's lots of great insight in the community about what this community facility can be and how it can serve our residents. But that's a different interest than actually needing space to deliver your organizational programming. I want to emphasize here too, like this is not a hierarchy of value. We are interested in the need participation across our community in each of these categories. The framework you have in front of you in the management report goes into detail on the assessment process that we've articulated for the partnership interest process. It starts with kind of, do we have strategic alignment? Is there a value of co-locating our services together? Is there an alignment around the community benefits that will be produced by a potential component? And when there is that strategic alignment, we can move a submission into what we're calling a capacity and readiness review. And this is all about, does an organization have the ability to kind of deliver what they foresee for themselves or propose at the community facility? And that has to do with the resources you have. Do you have capacity to deliver the programming? What is your organizational structure and stability? And again, this is like not a competitive ranking process. It's really just about understanding where and how we can engage with organizations across the community. A couple words about the review panel and safeguards. So we proposed a review panel that includes a CAO, a city finance representative, a representative from the YMCA, a representative from the Stratford Public Library, and one member of council. And so the role of the review panel is to look at the submissions that come through this process, apply the criteria, which is in the report, and I've given a high level view of now, is to apply that criteria to the submissions. And the process safeguards is all about how are we keeping track of our evaluation process, how are we producing the rationale for how we are making decisions or recommendations, I should say, about this. So it's really about applying that assessment criteria consistently and documenting that rationale. So we're looking tonight for council to appoint a member to sit on this review panel. Again, the recommendations from the review panel come back to council. We're aiming for September for your consideration. This helps to maintain and continues to propel this community facility conversation forward. We're making great progress with our shared community facility concept and really understanding who we are going to be designing with to achieve a really meaningful community facility that meets the needs of the community. Like, we need to know who's at the table to have those conversations and how can we work together. It also preserves an opportunity and maintains opportunity for other types of folks or other types of engagements across the community, whether they're users or just having kind of a broader interest. We're actively working to design and take the next steps on this facility, and this process and framework really supports that work in order to get back to you in September with a partnership, a different kind of partnership group. I'm happy to answer any questions here tonight, and I know there's a delegation as well. Thank you.
Questions or comments from council at this time? Councilor Henderson, Hunter, Berger.
You there, so we'll be shovel ready next week.
Don't think so.
No, this is exciting that, we're getting into this stuff and moving forward, because I think it's gonna pull other people out of the community that have been waiting and want to come in and be part of it too. Because if you start off with people that have some money to get it going, then we can bring seniors in and then get the affordable apartment building. Yes, sorry.
Thank you, Councilor Harrison. Councilor Hunter.
Thank you, through the mayor. So is it the intent then that by September we would have a list for voting on yea or nay, basically by September?
Yes, the idea would be to come back to you in September with recommendations about potential partners to be what we call foundational partners. So right now we've got the YMCA, the city, and the library, all with a reciprocal MOU. So what would be coming back to you in September is any recommendation about adding partners, or then we've kept this also it's not procurement. It's really exploratory. So maybe there's a different solution that might be possible, or a different way for partners to be engaged, but this is really what this is meant to assess. So yes, there'll be something back for you to think about in September.
So follow up, yeah, thank you, through the mayor. So the non major partners, just user groups, that can be sorted out like forever. Basically.
Exactly.
So we don't need to make finite decisions about that to keep the project going.
That's right, and if I may add to you through the mayor, when you design and all of the best practices in organizations who are designing community facilities, you want to talk to the user groups. We want to understand, how do people want to use this space. So the way that I would kind of differentiate it is, we need the foundational partners who are contributing capacity, contributing resources to understand kind of like the scope and scale of the facility that we are going to be building together. And then we need to know kind of within that scope, how should it be used, what would make it usable operationally, what kind of equipment, what kind of access is it, and that comes a little bit.
Before I move to Councilor Burback, you hit on a really good point. The idea is to allow the process to continue without it being bogged down, for lack of a better word, with this. So, great question. Thank you. Councilor.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, thanks for the support, and I think it's a great way forward. So excited to get that going, and I think it's good that it's a fairly short timeline to get things moving. I guess I have a question about the potential foundational partner. Are we talking about equal weighted decision making, or are we talking about the founding partners versus new partners that have different weights of decision making?
Through the chair, I think it's a great question, and it's a little too early to decide. So what we have right now between the YMCA, the city, and the library is the intention to collaborate a discussion around how a shared community facility would look. And one of the things to sort out is kind of the governance and ownership model. So if you can imagine, like, and we see this in other examples, you have a facility and one partner takes 60% of the space. So that indicates a different kind of arrangement where the costs are split differently, potentially the operating role is different for a partner who occupies more space. If you have one partner who owns the facility, they by necessity play a different kind of role. So that's exactly the kind of question that is the work of figuring out this community facility, but first knowing who those partners are and what their stake, investment and use and role in the facility, we gotta know that first before we get down to the brass tacks of the kind of governance you're describing.
Similar but different, when we come to facility users, and actually reaching out to anybody, how do you envision that process of reaching out to potential partners to find them?
Through the chair, so we're working together with our colleagues in communications here, corporate communications, and I'll probably be relying on council as well. So we've got a communications plan in order to post this on the website and do some additional promotions to make sure that this information is available. It is a tight turnaround, so we really need to make sure we're being strategic and doing more rather than less to get the message out. So yes, we've got a plan.
Any other questions?
Thank you. Just sort of related to the Rex question, but regarding the review panel, what's set up with that? So it's just, I don't foresee a scenario, but in a scenario where a potential partner, let's say a foundation partner, for instance, comes forward and are the partners like equally weighted for the review? Like if there was somebody that came forward and the city thought maybe, but then the other partners thought no, would that be done there, or like, because I'm just like, I'd like to have the city have sort of we do have more stake in the situation, and I wouldn't want to see a partner come forward and not sort of make it council or whatever based. I'm just wondering how that's proposed to work with the amendments being part of that.
Through the chair, happy to take that on. So the composition, we've made it an uneven number of members of the review panel, and you know that there is a CAO, a member of finance, and counselor who are sitting on this panel along with the one you see in the library. So there's a kind of natural weighting there that happens when we think about kind of the majority rules situation. It's also important, we discussed this a lot, about include the library and the YMCA in this review panel, because if you recall, and it's in this management report again, we've shown the preliminary capital stack, and the reality is like this project doesn't happen without those partnerships. So having the YMCA and the library on the review panel is an important component because they're core obviously to the partnership, and whoever is selected to join as a foundational partner, we must all work together. So the composition is balanced a little bit more towards the city to kind of preserve that interest, but it also recognizes the importance of the other partners.
Other comments or questions? Councilman Maggie.
Well, thank you to the mayor. Thank you for the report and great discussion. Cleared a lot of my questions too. I would like to make the motion to move the staff recommendation.
Through your worship, perhaps we could hear from the delegate first before council proceeds. Yes.
Thank you. So at this time, then, if there's no further questions, Councilor Burback, I'm sorry.
Thank you. I just wanted to note that I'm interested in being the member of council to serve on this review panel, because I do have a lot of criteria-based assessment process experience, and will several other potential partners that are going to be involved. So I think that would be helpful. So I'm willing to do that job.
So if there's nothing further for Ms. Robson at this time, then I will turn it back to the deputy clerk with regards to the agenda. Thank you. Councilor.
So I have one question to the mayor. Okay, so this gets passed tonight, and then you're gonna start meeting right away type thing, right? And then it gets advertised. Can somebody like join next month type thing?
Through the chair. We're really not, we're trying to have a process that's structured and then also not close off options. So I think if there was a really good potential partner
who came into the conversation at a later date. I think it's worth the conversation. What this is really trying to do is to have a process and a structure right now so that we can continue moving forward with opening. So I would never like discount, and we meet with anyone who's interested in this project, we meet with, so that will continue to be true. And if there's really a good fit that meets this criteria that comes after this this structured process, I think it is worth considering.
Thank you. Anything further? We go to the addendum at this time. Thank you. We're back to the deputy clerk.
Through your worship, as noted on the addendum, a delegation request was received following the publishing of the agenda. There is a motion that Tatiana Kalinowska be heard.
Moved by back, seconded by Councilor Hunter, in favor, opposed to any, that's unanimous and carried. Small choice, then we were able.
Hi, I guess I already presented myself. My name is Tatiana Kalinowska, and basically, I was preparing myself for this, speaking not the previous one, but what happens is happening. About the building, every time I walk around it or drive around it on my bike, it's huge, and it could fit many different businesses, I believe. I was previously working on getting back into business or applying for some kind of maybe trillion or some kind of grant.
It's fine.
And personal tragedy stopped me from this process, but I'm starting to get back into it. And I want to know if, like, my approach is I'm an international coach, and I would like to see some things happening for seniors in the way of health development. And I would like to be a partner in, I don't know if I have to go with YMCA or to basically be a separate partner, but that's what is really interesting for me. Basically develop programs. No, I haven't developed, but I want to make them alive for people here to participate in that and better their health. It's adopted parkour for older people, which will prevent teach them how to fall or how not to fall. And it's already used, this technique is already used in England and very successfully because it's cheaper, and I already spoken about it previously, it's cheaper to teach people how to sustain their balance than do the hip surgeries. And there are many different activities to be used for seniors, for the health development, but like for sorry for my language, it's my first language, I'm still adapting to English. Basically, what I see in this town, there's many seniors, and I believe that they could really benefit out of some programs. So my question would be at this point, what would be appropriate next step? To develop something, to look for sponsors for me, to develop some program, or to join with YMCA, or what would be the most pressing for that?
If I could, and certainly Ms. Robson, our corporate issues lead, could jump in as well, but part of this review panel that we're setting up, you will have an opportunity, if you're interested, to present your project or case at that time.
All right.
And in between, if there's financing that you believe, the partnerships you believe that can help you support that, either financially or in the running of that organization, then certainly do that while you are preparing to, access the review plan.
And also these programs to benefit not only seniors, but teenagers, like children and I mentioned previously. I'm surprised that it's not being taken on, like trampoline. Like, if some part of that used for trampoline and parkour, that's could have been already working and making money. And to adapt the corner of the building for trampoline and parkour use, it's pennies. Because in Europe, all the old buildings are used for that kind of measures. It doesn't need special equipment or special walls are done, floors are done. It's all done on cement floors and few wooden things.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That'd be perfect, back to the.
Through your worship, as noted on your agenda, there is a staff recommendation that council directs staff to implement the Grand Trunk Renewal Project Community Facility Participation Framework and launch the exploratory non-binding partnership interest process, including the participation categories, assessment criteria, review panel composition, and process safeguards described in report COU 26-109 and attached as Appendix 1. The council appoint a member of council to serve on the review panel for the partnership interest process concerning members with prior experience in criteria-based assessment processes, and that staff report back to council with the results of the partnership interest process, recommended participation categories, and proposed next steps.
Councillor Niger and then Councillor Burbank.
Well, I'd like to move the staff recommendation for this night. And appoint a member of council and would nominate Mayor Richmond since he's already in the vice chair of the ad hoc committee as well versed in that, so.
So the seconder for that motion. Councillor McKee will second. We need discussion. So seeing none, I will call the question. All in favor? Opposed to any? One opposed? Councillor Henderson, did you have any?
I was just wondering if you had heard from Jody Burbank before we voted on a motion. Was she gonna speak then?
Who is going to speak? I'm sorry.
Wasn't Councillor Burbank gonna speak?
She's welcome to speak. We haven't called the question, but I'll turn it back to Councillor Burbank.
Yeah, I did have my hand up, but I was gonna make a motion. So, that's it.
So if this motion fails, then you can make another motion.
Well, okay, I have already voted, but.
Well, I stopped because I saw Councillor Henderson's hand. So. I'm willing to, I don't know where we're at in this, but I'm willing, it's been moved and seconded, and I go back to the deputy clerk, whether we can. Persons moved and seconded can move themselves if they wish, and we open the floor up to Councilor Burbank if you wish.
Your worship, at this time, there is a motion on the floor, and council will have to decide on the motion before further motions.
Anything further? So seeing none, I will call the question. All in favor? Opposed to any? One opposed, that's carried. Next item.
Moving to item 7.2, the Homemakers Program contract renewal for the One Care Home and Community Support Services. And there is a staff recommendation that council authorize entering into a renewal agreement with One Care Home and Community Support Services for the Homemakers Program for the period of June 1st, 2026 to May 31st, 2028. And that the mayor and clerk or their respective delegates be authorized to execute the agreement with One Care Home and Community Support Services for a 2-year term to deliver the Homemakers Program.
Thank you. That is by Councilor Bean, seconded by Councilor Henderson. Discussion. Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed to any? That's unanimous.
Moving to item 7.3, the 2026 appointments to the Festival Hydro Inc. Board of Directors. There is a staff recommendation that Franklin Pham, Jerry Van Woodegum, and Saeed Mir be appointed to the Festival Hydro Inc. Board of Directors for a 4-year term effective December 1st, 2026 through November 30th, 2030, and that bylaw 4-2023 be amended as amended, be further amended to confirm the appointments to the Festival Hydro Inc. Board of Directors.
Thank you. Mover for those names as listed, moved by Councillor Knight, seconded by Councillor Bean. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed of any, that's unanimous and carried.
Moving to item 7.4, the Comprehensive Parking Management System RFP Award. And there is a staff recommendation that the request for proposal for a comprehensive parking management system be awarded to GTECNA or Axio Solutions for a 3-year term ending in 2029 for a total contract value noted, and then an option to renew for an additional 1 year for 2 additional 1-year terms until 2031. That the implementation of remaining 2026 costs be funded from the Parking Reserve Fund, and that the mayor and clerk or their respective designates be authorized to execute all necessary contract agreements.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Burbach, seconded by Councillor Bean. Thank you. Any discussion? Councillor Savick, go ahead, please.
Thank you. So this is an increase in service. It's something that I did not support during the 2025 budget at the cost of 76,000, and I continue to believe it's an example of a want and a need. While I agree this would be nice to have, I continue to object to asking residents to make increasingly difficult choices with increased budgets and expenses which I believe are unnecessary. So I will be supportive of the motion.
Thank you. Anything further? Councillor Burbach.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I'm just making a comment that, according to the staff report, the scope of actually save money, for staff time and administrative costs in the long run.
Thank you. Councillor Bean.
Thank you, the mayor. From what I've seen, that it comes from the parking reserve fund would mean that it's user paid, would it not? Is that correct?
We're back to the deputy clerk.
Through your worship, the operating costs of the parking division are funded by the fees that are collected for parking.
Any further comments before I call the question? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed to any? One opposed? That is carried.
Moving to item 7.5, RFP award for the Recreation and Leisure Master Plan. And there is a staff recommendation that the request for proposal for the creation of a 10-year Recreation and Leisure Master Plan be awarded to McQueen Galloway Associates in the amount noted. And that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the contract agreement for the RFP-2026-12.
Thank you. Moved by. Thank you, Councillor Henderson, second by Councillor Burbach. Discussion. Noted. Call the question, all in favor? Opposed to any, that's unanimous and carried.
Moving to item 7.6, the Willow Street Playground RFP award, and there is a staff recommendation that the proposal for the design, supply, delivery, and installation of an accessible playground, including accessible engineered wood chip base and accessible path at Willow Street Playground be awarded to New World Park Solutions at the amount noted, and that the mayor and clerk or the respective delegates be authorized to execute the agreement for RFP 2026-06.
Thank you. For this item, Councillor McCabe will move, seconded by Councillor Niger. Any discussion? Thank you, Councillor Anderson.
Mayor, I just want to double check, the engineered wood chip base, will that be loose or will that be firm and packed?
Up to all.
So through the chair, it is the engineered wood fiber wood is accessible. So there is a little bit, but it does compact down.
Is it similar to the stuff in Freezer Park?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. All right, thank you.
Anything further? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed to any, that's unanimous and carried.
Moving to item 7.7, the Devon Street Playground RFP award, and there is a staff recommendation that the proposal for the design, supply, delivery, and installation of an accessible playground, including accessible engineered wood chip base at the Devon Street Playground, be awarded to Henderson Recreation Equipment Limited in the amount noted, and that the mayor and clerk or the respective designates be authorized to execute third-party agreement for RFP-2026-08.
Thank you. By Councillor Burbach, seconded by Councillor Henderson. Any discussion? None noted, all in favor? Opposed to any, that's unanimous and carried.
Moving to item 7.8, the Agriflex roof replacement tender award, and there is a staff recommendation that a tender for the replacement of the thermoplastic polyolefin roofing systems at the Agriflex be awarded to Grand Valley Roofing and Coatings Inc. at the amount noted. That the Director of Community Services be authorized to approve a contingency amount of $40,000 if the additional replacement of installation work is required. That the purchase be funded as budgeted from the facilities capital reserve fund, and that the mayor and clerk or their respective delegates be authorized to sign the contract agreement for T-2026-10.
Thank you, Councillor Burbach will move that item, seconded by Councillor Niger, thank you. Any discussion? Councillor Burbach.
Thank you, through the chair. In the past, we were talking about the possibility of putting some solar panels on the roof there and doing some research. This type of roof is actually ideal for a solar panel array. And that staff's talking about that in the past as well. So just wondering about an update about solar panels.
Sure. Through the chair, so maybe for Rotary, that's where we were actually looking. So CEO Jeff Graham from Festival Hydro and I had those conversations. We looked at weight for engineered studies to make sure that there's a weight capacity that can hold solar panels. The Rotary complex does have a capacity where the halls are. We were looking at that at one point when we were investigating through, I think it went through AMO on red tape to get the process more faster and using utilization of redistributing the hydro from the solar panels. So there has been talks on that, and I know Jeff and I had lots of discussions on that as to next steps moving forward. So it's definitely on our radar and would be something that if we get an opportunity through a grant that can do that, we would be all over that.
Great, thank you. And I meant that, yeah, for this item and the next.
Yes.
Complex as well. Thank you.
I'll say that we have delegated to the province on this with limited success, but certainly we're not the only municipality trying to advocate for that. Thank you. Anything further on this item? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any, that's unanimous and carried.
Moving to item 7.9, the Rotary Complex roof replacement and maintenance tender award. And there is a staff recommendation that the tender for the replacement of the ethylene propylene diene thermopolymer roofing systems and maintenance and repairs to the metal roofing systems at the Rotary Complex be awarded to Grand Valley Roofing and Coatings Inc. at the total cost noted. That the Director of Community Services be authorized to approve a contingency amount of $40,000. The additional replacement of insulation work is required. That the purchase be funded as budgeted from the facilities capital reserve fund, and that the mayor and clerk or their respective delegates be authorized to sign a contract agreement for T-2026-09.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor McDade will move, seconded by Councillor Hunter. Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none. Councillor Henderson, I'm sorry.
Mayor, I just have a question. I thought metal roofs were supposed to last like 2 times the length of a regular roofing. And they were both done at the same time, so I'm curious why this metal roofing system. It's not really being replaced, it's just being fixed, is that so?
Through the chair, we are doing the layout where we're doing stone on top. The metal roof, we are just doing a spray epoxy similar to what we did on Gardner, only on the seams. Just to prolong it, we've had some minor leakage. It doesn't need to be fully replaced, but by doing just that spray over top of it, with the epoxy that will go on it, will extend the life of that roof.
Oh, okay, thanks for that. Thank you.
Councillor Bean.
Thank you for the mayor. I do have a question about the unused unbudgeted funds, but is it appropriate to ask it now, or we wait till after this is approved and then?
Let's do this, and then if you want to come back to it either right away and or new business, that's your choice.
Is it possible to do it right away after?
You can.
Okay, thank you.
So there is a motion on the floor. I believe that's been moved and seconded. Thank you. I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any, that's unanimous. Carried. I'll go back to Councillor Bean.
Thank you, through the mayor. So I'm gonna read out the thought process, because it's shifted quite a lot today, just in the topic of, so basically it's about $819,000 that came under budget, which I recognize for the facilities reserve fund is actually fantastic for future projects because they're underfunded as probably are every other reserve. But so however, council is also responsible for determining relative priority of competing community needs. And the significantly lower than anticipated cost of both of those roof projects, I felt presented a rare opportunity to make a strategic investment in another critical priority without increasing taxes or creating a new funding source. So unlike many of the other reserves, the housing reserve has no consistent annual funding mechanism. And opportunities to strengthen the housing reserve are exceptionally rare. We did the people care billing, but it's also waiting for the year-end surplus. It doesn't offer certainty that this will be funded. So I had originally wanted to propose transferring 25% of the unused project funding, leaving 75% in reserves and taking the 25%, roughly 200,000 into the housing. However, I've had many conversations today with Director Kruger, Wolf, and CEO as well, and just basically saying that even if we did do that, that's not consistent funding either. But so I would like to make a motion right now that we would refer to staff to bring a report back to council with options to find a consistent funding source for the housing reserve, which would not necessarily omit this as a possibility, but would potentially be something more consistent that we, so, I mean, I'm working, my goal is to get 100 units built in Stratford with a nonprofit housing. I want to see very affordable housing on a bigger scale so that we can see some of these problems and people it actually be solved. And I personally feel that if we are putting money aside in there, it makes that decision easier for us to decide when the time comes. So I would like to see that housing reserve filled. So once again, so basically I'm just asking for, how can we do this? How can we get this, so it would come back to us as options?
Councillor Bean, wondering if you could just reread that, just for clarity for council and for our deputy clerk as well.
So I would like to make a motion to refer to staff to bring back a report to council with options to find a consistent funding source for the housing reserve.
I'll second. Councillor Henderson will second. Thank you. Discussion. Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed to any? And that's unanimous and carried. Thank you, Councillor Dew. Next item.
Moving to item 7.10, the resignation from the Downtown Business Improvement Area Board, and there is a motion that the resignation of Jennifer Birmingham from the Stratford Downtown Business Improvement Area Board be accepted.
Move that. Thank you, Councillor Burbank. Seconded by Councillor Niger. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed to any? That's unanimous.
Moving to item 11, the Dragon Boat Festival Municipal Significance Request, and there is a motion that Stratford City Council hereby designates the 2026 Dragon Boat Festival to be held September 19, 2026 at the Lower Queens Park between Queen Street and Front Street along Lakeside Drive and Tom Patterson Islands, having municipal significance for the purpose of obtaining liquor licenses from the AGCO, subject to necessary permits being obtained, compliance with the city's municipal alcohol risk policy, compliance with the conditions outlined by the fire department and adhered to at all times for the event, and the required certificates of insurance being provided prior to the event.
For that item, thank you, Councillor Munder, seconded by Councillor Burbank. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed to any? That's unanimous and carried.
Item 7.12 is a proclamation for Ontario Cadets Week, and there is a motion that Stratford City Council hereby proclaims October 3 to 10, 2026 Ontario Cadets Week in the City of Stratford to show support for the cadet program, providing youth with valuable opportunities to develop leadership, citizenship, teamwork, discipline, and physical fitness, and that Stratford City Council authorizes the flying of the Cadets Canada flag from October 3 to October 10 to recognize their contribution of volunteer hours, demonstrating commitment to service, respect, and community pride.
Moved by Councillor Henderson, seconded by Councillor Burbank. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed to any, that's unanimous.
Item 8 is business for which previous notice has been given and there is none noted. Item 9, reports of the standing committees, and there are no reports for consideration. Item 10 is notice of intent, and there is none noted. Item 11 is reading of the bylaws, and there are 9 bylaws for consideration. Bylaw 11.1 is the appointments to the Festival Hydro Inc. Board of Directors. Bylaw 11.2, the agreement renewal for homemakers and nurses services. Bylaw 11.3 is the award proposal for the design, supply, delivery, and installation of an accessible playground at the Willow Street Playground. Bylaw 11.4 is to appoint an inspector under the Building Code Act. Bylaw 11.5 is the award proposal for the design, supply, delivery, and installation of an accessible playground at Devon Street Park. Bylaw 11.6 is the award tender for the replacement of the Agriplex roof. Bylaw 11.7 is the award tender for the replacement, maintenance, and repairs to the roofing systems at the Rotary Complex. Bylaw 11.8 is the award proposal for the comprehensive parking management system. And bylaw 11.9 is the award proposal for the recreation of the leisure master plan. The following bylaws require first and second readings, and third and final readings, and can be taken collectively upon unanimous vote of council.
Thank you. Mover to take these items collectively. Councillor Bean will move, second by Councillor Hunter. Any Councillor Sad.
Make 11.8.
Thank you. So it's been moved and seconded to 11.1 through to 11.7 and 11.19 collectively. All in favor? Opposed if any, that's unanimous and carried. So looking for a motion to take 11.1 through 11.7 and 11.9. First and second, moved by Councillor Councillor Anderson. Thank you. Second by Councillor Burback. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed if any, that's unanimous and carried. And third and final for 11.1 through to 11.7 and 11.9. Move for that, Councillor Nigel will move, second by. Thank you, Councillor Hunter. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed if any, that's unanimous and carried. And moving back to 11.8, and I have a mover for first and second of 11.8. Moved by Councillor McCabe, second by Councillor Burback. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed if any, one opposed, and that is carried. And a mover for third and final of 11.8, Councillor Bean. Thank you, will move, second by Councillor Henderson. Any discussion? Call the vote, all in favor? Opposed if any, one opposed, and that's carried. Thank you.
Moving to item 12, the consent agenda. Are there any items to be considered at this time?
Thank you. Councillor Hunter, go ahead, please.
Thank you. CA 2026-082. It's a letter from the Municipal Finance Officers Association requesting that the province permanently double the Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund.
Thank you. A second for that, Councillor McCabe will second. Any discussion? An excellent letter of support, so thank you for bringing that forward. I'll call the question, all in favor? Opposed if any, and that's carried. Any other items on the consent agenda? Councillor McCabe, go ahead, please.
Item 2026-081, the correspondence from the town of Clinton, Wyoming regarding Canada Ontario Development Charge Reduction Program, indicating the issues that small municipalities have regarding grant proposals.
Thank you. Seconder for that, thank you, Councillor Burback. Any Councillor Burback, go ahead.
Thank you, definitely in support of this motion. I did talk to MP Eva this morning, and she was saying that there is actually already a federal stream that's going to go through FedDev. So that's maybe something staff can look into as far as a different twist on the development program that's specifically for smaller and rural municipalities.
So to that end, my discussion with Minister Flag indicates that something new and will come forward under the grant side as well, so thank you. Any other comments or call the question? All in favor? Opposed if any, that's unanimous and carried. Thank you, and I believe that exhausts those two items on consent, so thank you, next item.
Moving to item 13, new business. Are there any new business items?
See, done, thank you.
Item 14 is adjournment to the standing committees, and there is a motion that the council meeting adjourn to convene into standing committees as follows. Finance and Labor Relations Committee, following that Infrastructure, Transportation and Safety Committee, and to reconvene into council.
Thank you. Mover for that item, thank you, Councilor Niger, seconded by Councilor Seven. All in favor? Opposed if any, that's unanimous. We will invite Chair Hunter forward for finance.
I now call to order the Finance and Labor Relations Committee meeting. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary or interest? See none. Item 3 is subcommittee minutes. Subcommittee minutes are attached for background from the June 16th, 2026 subcommittee meeting. Item 4 is delegations, of which there are none. Item 5 is the report of the Director of Corporate Services. 5.1 is the CEDCO Invest Stratford update from June 16th, 2026. There is a subcommittee recommendation that the CEDCO update of that date be received for information. So, moved by Councilor Henderson, seconded by Councilor Niger. Any discussion? See none, all in favor? That's unanimous, carried. 5.2 is legacy account close. There is a subcommittee recommendation that council authorized the transfer of the remaining balance of trust account T-T11-TPAT-TACC, the Battershall Trust Funds, to the unrestricted general reserve account. That account is listed there for future use toward youth programs identified within the social services department. That council authorized the closure of the Battershall Trust accounts. That council authorized the transfer of the remaining balance of trust account T-T11-TKUB-TACC, the Cul-de-sac Development Funds, to the account listed there for the Motorwell Local Improvement Project completed in 2025. That council authorized the closure of the Cul-de-sac Development Trust accounts. That council authorized the transfer from the Cobra Developments Reserve Fund listed there for use of future public works capital projects. And that council authorized the closure of the Cobra Development Reserve Fund accounts. Like for that, Councilor McCabe, seconded by Councilor Niger. Discussion. Councilor Burbeck.
Thank you, through the chair. It just occurs to me that we are moving funds from one reserve to another, so maybe this is an opportunity rather than into the future public work capital projects fund that we could move that into that housing fund. It's not a lot, but like so. Yeah, sorry, I'll second it. So yeah, I'm proposing that as a nation temporary.
So proposing that as an amendment.
Yeah.
That was second, like some discussion on that. Oh.
Well, to the mayor, I just have a question about that. Since we haven't had the report back yet, should we wait for that? I mean, we can always transfer that money out of there after, but keep these totals of these three accounts. And then if it comes back, we can set up this reserve account for housing. Then at that time, move them over. How about we move them over before we get the report?
Thank you to the chair. I suggest let's do both. Why don't we move this over and then also wait for the report to come back for more consistent funding.
I was going to suggest that we did pass a motion earlier with regards to a report coming back from staff, and I thought that that would be a time where that this would be part of that report. I think it would be less complicated, but I think there makes some merit to what they're doing.
for us to work.
Councilor Burbank?
Thank you for the chair. Just a question then for Speaker. Is it more complicated to do it this way, or should we wait for the report?
It doesn't, it's not really the complexity that's the issue. I think it's just, there's probably some additional information that may impact that direction. And that would just be that, while the risks are low based on our legal advice of maybe potentially having further repercussions, the risk is there that should something crawl out of the woodwork, like from another entity relating to this that we hadn't yet uncovered, then we could have a liability related to that. And so if we attach it to a reserve that that may not have a revolving or a carrying balance, or would be earmarked 100% to something, then that risk is there. But again, we can certainly address that in the upcoming report back. So through the merits, because I was thinking, just in case when the report comes back, they might come back with some kind of recommendation where, you have a list of all the reserves and a certain percentage of each reserve could go into housing or something, like, I don't know, I just feel more comfortable waiting till we find out what the report's gonna be said. We can always take it around.
Thank you to the chair. So council adjust my amendment to refer this possible as being one of the possible sources for that funding. The housing in the future, like to add to the report that's being made, as opposed to deciding now.
Guys, you were the seconder, does that work for you?
So yes, except that I would still like to see consistent funding, not just the one-off, as long as it's not just this.
Councilor McDavid, you had a comment?
Through the chair, I was just going to suggest that it's better for the staff to recommend it than for us to throw this curveball into that discussion right now, in my opinion.
Councilor Seth.
I just looking for some clarity for if we're referring this movement from covert development reserve funds to the housing reserve. We're looking for more information on that, but then what happens in the meantime? So then we're kind of halting the funds from leaving that and closing the fund, is that? I think I'm just looking for not understanding exactly where we're at with the motion. A motion where to proceed where that money would sit there and then we wouldn't be able to close the fund.
No, through the chair, that's a good summary of it. Yes, Councillor Seven, like it would just be or paused until such time as further direction was provided.
Yeah, and it's gonna follow up. So then the motion is to refer the idea of moving those funds to the house reserve and not come back to council for with staff sort of into it, whether the council wants to do that or not. I understand.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, I just had one comment that because we do have a staff report coming back, the source of the funds to me is not so important as to just following the report. It might be cleaner to just wait until we have that report. Any further comments or questions? So we do have the motion on the floor, and I'll just make sure I'm clear that it reads as is, except for the covert development funds, which you're recommending would be a potential use for the housing income. Everybody's still good on that? Cool.
I think, so I made an amendment, so you have to vote on the amendment as.
Oh, yes, sir. We'll vote on the amendment first. So any other questions or comments on the amendment? Well, Councilor Henderson.
So what we're saying is, to the mayor, the council authorized the transfer from overdevelopment reserve funds to the housing fund. Is that what we're saying?
I think for potential use in that fund. Was that correct, Councilor?
Yeah, basically pausing the transfer to the future public works capital projects and seeing if it will fit going into the housing fund reserve in the future.
That's what
I'm gonna oppose that amendment just because I think it muddies the water in relationship to what this is doing. I think we just do this motion that has been brought forward. wait for the staff report, so that was the. Councilor Anderson.
Through the mayor, I just wanna say that I think we should make this clear and not muddy the waters. I think everybody's heard how we feel about it, that we are looking for a housing fund. Great that Leslie brought that up, and I'm assuming that that's gonna come back to us in a different format in the report. So I'm not gonna endorse changing this motion at this point, because I think it's gonna come back.
Councilor Knight, you better come, no, okay, good. Anything else then on the floor? Councilor Sutton.
So, I certainly support funding the housing reserve. I think what I'm assuming is that if we don't put these funds in public works fund, we will have to fund public works fund from the levy instead, and what I would rather see is, and maybe the report that comes back to council that we made a motion for earlier will explain that a little better, but what I'd rather see is if we want to put so much money into housing reserve, that it's laid out so we know what it's, we know where it's coming from exactly, and it's not, because to me it sort of will skew the numbers if we put it to housing. But then we have to have a levy increase, a small amount for public works, when in fact it's housing, it just sort of complicates things. I think we should support the housing reserve, but maybe we just have it more laid out and easier to understand where the money's coming from, so that when we want to make those investments, everybody understands that we're making those investments and it's coming from here. I support it, but I think it's just, I think instead we should just do the same amount of money and they were going to use that money. Maybe not someone else.
Anything else then? No, so I'm calling the question on the proposed amendment on the floor. All in favor? All opposed? And that's defeated. So now we have the original motion. Do I have a mover for that? Councilor Nigel, seconder, Councilor McKay, discussion on that. I'll call the question, all in favor? And that's carried. Item 6 is the report of the manager of human resources. 6.1 is the people plan and human resources modernization update. There is a staff recommendation that the report entitled people plan and human resources modernization update be received for information. For that, Councilor Nigel, seconded by Councilor Henderson. Discussion. All question, all in favor, and that's unanimous and carried. 7 is the report of the chief building official. 7.1 is the 2024 and 2025 building permit activity report. There is a subcommittee recommendation that the report titled 2024 and 2025 building permit activity report be received for information, and that staff be authorized to post a copy of the report on the city's website to satisfy section 775 of the Building Code Act, making the report available to the public. Councilor Burback will move that. Second, Councilor Henderson. Just like to vote. Go ahead, discussion.
To the mayor, I'm just curious about that last paragraph, but I'm wondering why we would have to approve that. Wouldn't that just be under the building code act that it just done?
Through you, Mr. Chair, you're correct, Councilor Anderson. It is a legislative requirement. What staff are doing is presenting it to council, and council's providing its blessing to the report and the numbers presented, and then we can move forward with posting it as a legislation.
Any further discussion? Nope, I'll call the question. All in favor? And that's unanimous carried. 8 is for the information of the committee, and there are no advisory committee outside of word minutes attached. Item 9 is adjournment. Do I have any room for that? Councilor Niger, seconder, Councilor Dean, all in favor? And that's unanimous and you're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you. They're untrue, it's not all white. Right, yes.
like to call the Infrastructure, Transportation and Safety Committee to order. Item 2, disclosure and pecuniary interests. Seeing none, item 3 are the subcommittee minutes from the recent meeting. Item 4 is delegation. And 4.1 is a delegation, it's a request for angled parking on Hamilton Street. So Francis Anderson would like to speak to the committee about this item. So I have a motion to Mr. Henderson, Mr. Humphrey, Alden Bugler. Thank you. Come on forward.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, councilors, and committee members. Thank you for the opportunity for public input on parking on Hamilton Street. Hamilton Street is the short street to the east of the Anglican Church. It runs from William along the river to Mornington. And it has just 3 houses along it, and ours is one of them. My husband Ron and I have been residents here for 12 years. The church has been a very good neighbor, and the building itself is historic. It was built prior to automobiles, and so there is inadequate parking. This year, the congregation has expanded as the 3 Anglican churches in town have merged into one, the new Holy Trinity, and that means the church is busier than ever. In addition to churchgoers, there's demand for parking spaces from families visiting the pool. The swim season has started, and staff from the group home on William Street also use the space on Hamilton Street for parking. And visitors wanting to head downtown for summer music and other events often park on Hamilton Street, then walk across the dam. Traffic-wise, Hamilton Street is a busy and congested area, and in this short street, there are 2 church parking spaces and 4 laneways. At any given time, and I checked this morning or this afternoon at 5 o'clock, 2/3 of the cars parked along the street are illegally parked. The street is too narrow for parallel parking across from a laneway. And remember, there are 4 laneways. And there isn't sufficient radius for residents backing up to turn safely and get onto the street. In 2-way traffic, one car sometimes has to back up to allow the other to get by. And cars rounding the corner from Mornington often encounter another car almost in front of them that's moved to accommodate the vehicle parked along the lane. So overall, the current traffic configuration creates risks that could be resolved through the church's angled parking proposal. And I was delighted when the church proposed creating 7 angled parking spaces along the street. Our other neighbors, the Stewarts and the McDonalds, are also in support of the church's proposal to create more legal parking spaces. And that means 100% of the Hamilton Street residents are in support of the proposal. There are several benefits. 1, this would eliminate the illegal parking. 2, angled parking is certainly more convenient for drivers, especially senior drivers. 3, angled parking is safer for people getting in and out of cars. And 4, a quick Google search tells me that angled parking fits 30 to 40% more cars in the same linear space. Now, I note in the report the council will receive from city staff that they are recommending a lay-by. This would create parallel parking. They say there is insufficient space for angled parking, but that is only if the space used is city-owned property. In this case, I understand the church, and there are 2 representatives who waited the last 3 hours to support this. The church is prepared to work with the city to use some of its land. And I urge you as councilors to direct staff to take advantage of this. Given the need for more accessible parking, I would further suggest that one of the spaces be designated for handicapped use. And I think I've even read there is additional funding for this. The church has served this city well for over a century and is taking steps to prepare for its future. As councillors, your support for the proposal for more angled parking will help the congregation move forward. It will improve traffic flow for drivers, and it will make the area safer for us all. It would be a positive, lasting change, and I hope you will support it. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. We have a couple of questions here from council.
I was gonna make a motion.
Oh, you're going to make a motion. Are there any questions from the delegate? Councilor Kay.
Through the chair, possibly to Nathan Bottom. What would be a process where we would negotiate with the landowner over expanding that space? What would that look like?
Through the chair, that would definitely not. It would have to be some sort of easement, getting access or getting rights to have infrastructure on their lands. So it would be an easement.
Councilor Anderson.
I would like to make a motion to refer the spot to staff to work with the church and see if we can come up with angled parking along that street.
Councilor Seven will second that. Is there any other discussion around that recommendation? If not, all in favor? And that carries. Thank you very much. So the staff will look into it and we'll have another report for us. See how that's going to work. So item 5 is the report of the Director of Infrastructure and Development Services. 5.1 is the new street parking options on Hamilton Street. So there was some information given there. No recommendations actually, and the recommended motion was to receive this information. So we can still do that. Councilor McKay will move to receive the report. Councilor Hunter, any other comments about this report? Yeah, okay.
Through the chair, one thing I can add, we did look at doing the angled spots, and if we were to do angled versus the lay-by, it would equate to one additional space. The lay-by proposes 7, angled, like a combination of angled and lay-by is 8. So exploring the option of extending it onto private property would gain us 1 additional space.
Councilor Reid.
Through the chair, and also a lot less stress for drivers. I hate parallel parking.
Yes, thank you for that. And considering some of the comments made by the delegate, the issue of getting those cars off of the road and having more room for cars to turn is also a factor. So, are there any other questions?
Are we still talking about Hamilton Street?
Pardon me?
Are we still talking about Hamilton Street?
Yes.
Well, I have another suggestion too. Since the church is here, and I'm sure what other thoughts are on this, but what about London Street on that side, you know, across from the pool? I don't know if we'd be able to add parking on that side if there was land to move it in it. I'm just thinking that we're having a discussion, get a discussion about that, too, and get some more thoughts. Because we've got 3 churches there, we heard this lady eloquently explain about the parking issues. Like maybe we could have parking along, would that be the north side of William Street? As long as it doesn't run into their cemetery, where they have scattering on that. I don't know if they have the space to add land there, but maybe we could expand the talk when we're talking about the parking.
It's definitely an idea. I'm wondering if staff wants to respond, or we can just add it to.
Yeah.
We don't need to add it to the motion, but we can ask the staff to investigate the possibility, discuss it with the church, to see if there are any options along that. Could be considered.
Yeah, through the chair, I'd have to, we'd have to look through the parking bylaw, see if parking on both sides of the streets is permitted on New Street. I don't know. Yeah. Also the subject lands, there is a bit of a slope to it and a lot of mature trees along William Street, so that would be a challenge that's definitely posed there. if I can jump back to Hamilton Street, looking at that configuration, when we looked at the angle parking, you can actually fit 5 angled vehicles in there, and then we proposed a lay-by where there's a retaining wall for accessible access to the church. So it's not a full 8 angled parking spots, it's 5.
Okay, so, oh, go ahead.
Oh, correct. Madam Chair, finish your thought and then I'll add in the increment.
Well, I was gonna say we made a motion for staff to investigate with the church so that can. When just provide other ideas. Floated at that time. But go ahead.
So to the chair, the component I was going to talk about is staff from a high level looked at the encroaching angular parking, but the property is designated for heritage purposes. So once we start encroaching onto the lands, and staff will provide that account within the information that comes back to council. But I know from a functional perspective, it might be the more appealing route to take, but we're now venturing off of city right-of-way property onto private, the property that is designated for heritage protection purposes, and there it's a long-standing old church, so we're sort of getting onto some sensitive or protected lands from that perspective, but that will be information that we provide in the fall.
Thank you. So we have a motion on the floor to accept the report for 5.1. If there are no further comments, I'll call a question. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. 5.2 is the Erie Street parking lot redevelopment update. So that's very interesting management report. So I don't know if this is what you want to say a few words of the Erie Street parking lot.
I wasn't planning on speaking.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions about the report, or would someone like to move the subcommittee recommendation? Councilor Anderson.
Okay, I'll move it and I'll have discussion about it.
Okay, this is a, yeah, this is a recommendation, seconded by Councilor Leonard. Councilor Leonard.
Okay, so to the chair, if we do this and we decide to build a multi-tiered garage there, parking garage or something, will that affect the idea of making the whole lot a multi-tiered garage with, say, apartments above it?
As a committee member, I can maybe answer that question, because we did talk about it in the subcommittee. So this proposal would divide the lot into an upper and a lower.
Right.
And the lower would be the parking structure, but the upper lot would not have to stay a parking lot. That is where residential or other uses could be built. So the idea is to shift all the parking to one side and then be able to use that upper lands for other purposes in the future. Okay. Is that correct? Councilor Seta.
I was wondering if staff could just speak to, if we move forward, the 2 distinct redevelopment parcels, how this would or would not affect any of the spaces until the time comes when there's a structure that's being built. So just sort of for the public sort of to understand if I'm not taking away spaces in the meantime.
Yeah, through the chair. So definitely in the construction phase, there would be reduced parking, obviously on the south path, just with construction going on there. The intent would for it to be a prefabricated structure. So that would expedite the erection of a parking structure. Based on some market sounding, it sounds like that it's reasonable to expect an 8-month timeline to erect a structure like this. So to answer your question, yes, there would be some reduced parking in the lower tier, I guess, for the lower lot. Upper lot would remain the same. And then once the lower lot has a structure on it, there would be equivalent capacity for once the north lot gets developed.
Thank you.
I would just, through the chair, just say that it works well in relationship to what might happen on the Grand Trunk site. If we're needing to shift parking and we need to add extra parking, this proposal makes it look like we can kind of stage things in a way. That's why it seems to be attractive to look at this year.
One thing we also discussed at subcommittee level is the fact that I'm pretty sure that the lower lot where the parking structure is proposed has a few more remediation issues, so sensitive uses like residential would be a little more difficult, we'd have to do more remediating, whereas the upper lot would have less concerns of that type, so it would be easier to develop residential eventually. Councillor Henderson.
To the floor, I am so excited. I'm already visualizing this big apartment with affordable sand at the bottom and multi-millionaires on the top, and oh, let's get somebody in it with money to build that. Sounds great. And it'll be right downtown.
Yeah, I think we're all pretty excited about that. Yeah, and just having parking for the residents that are, the new residents that are downtown, the newer developments that are back on there. This could be a really great solution. There's still more evaluation and so on to be done, and identification of resources required to enhance the redevelopment. So there's work to be done, but I think we're moving in the right direction with this one. So we have the subcommittee recommendation moved and seconded. Are there any other comments or questions? All in favor? That carries. Thank you. 5.3 is overall parking strategies and restrictions review. We have a management report there, and a staff recommendation. So, are there any questions for staff, or would someone like to move the staff recommendation? Councillor Anderson.
To the chair. So my only comment would be is, the washrooms, like in the park system, do we not open them April 1st until the end of October?
Through the chair, May 1st.
Oh, it's May 1st. Oh, so this would be consistent. Okay, that's what I was just gonna make sure. Okay.
Thank you. Would someone like to move the staff recommendation? Would you like to read it? Councillor David, you'll move the staff recommendation. Seconded by Councillor Hunter. Are there any other comments or questions? Councillor David.
I just want to thank the staff for putting together so many options and really looking at it in a wholesome manner, and hopefully we can make some decisions further after considering the next budget.
Thank you, the chair. It's a very minor thing, but I think it also is a safety issue in the sense of we have lots of guests that are at restaurants drinking and they could leave their car overnight and take taxi. It just provides that extra sense of the ability to make good decisions. So I support it for even that.
I would also comment the ability to enforce it is probably a piece as well. If there are no further comments or questions, Councillor Anderson.
To the chair. So I just have one more question. I wonder if we should start at 8 o'clock first, because with the weather how it is, we don't have winter. And then the theater's starting. Doesn't the theater start in April?
I believe we still have winter weather in April. Just
okay.
Yeah. Any other comments? If not, I will call the question. All in favor? There's unanimously, thank you. 6.1 is the Stratford landfill public input invitation, June 2026. So we have a staff recommendation to receive the report for information. Councillor Bean will move, Councillor 19 second. Any comments? Seeing none, all in favor? There's item 7 is a report to the council committee coordinator. 7.1 is request for additional parking spaces on Lakeside Drive at Fleet Street. We have a staff recommendation there, spot out of those accessible spots. Have a mover for the staff recommendation. Councillor Natchez. Councillor Natchez will second. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? That carries. Thank you. 7.2 is an accessible viewing area design and installation on Veterans Drive. We had quite a lengthy conversation about this at subcommittee. And we do have a recommendation there that the installation of a sidewalk segment with built-in rest area on Veterans Drive be approved, and that the cost of the project be funded by the accessibility improvements and other related budgets. Councilor Henderson, you will move. Councilor Newman, second. Any other questions or comments? Councilor McCabe.
I prefer the staff recommendation that the request from the Accessibility Advisory Committee to install an accessible viewing platform on Veterans Drive be preferred to the mayor inspiration of the 2027 budget, just because it is what they requested. I think it looks right in the context of having them participate directly with the productions that are happening at the band show, and that's why I would prefer to see that.
Councilor.
Through the chair, I echo what Mr. McCabe said that
I withdraw my motion.
So I guess we have no motion on the floor then. Would someone like to make a motion? Councilor McCabe.
I'll move the staff recommendation.
Councilor Fletcher. Pardon me. So the staff recommendation is above, the one not in bold, and then subcommittee recommendation is the one you initially, the one below. Just to clarify, so you withdrew your one for the installation sidewalk.
Yes.
And Larry moved staff recommendation, the request to install the viewing platform, so it is different and it's more expensive and it's more elective.
Alright.
Councilor Seven.
Thank you, guys. Clarify it's new with the mayor's budget. This being referred to the mayor for consideration as part of the mayor's budget. Does that, I guess at the time, will that give the mayor the ability to put it on the budget or not? Or will this automatically put it on the mayor's budget?
It's a good question, maybe I'll ask to that.
Thank you through the chair. We're still ironing out the proposed budget strategy at the moment, but the intent likely would be to highlight any, like we did in the previous, like in 2026, highlight any things that are included or not included with the mayor's presentation budget. So that'll come down to the mayor's direction after the election.
Yeah, so is there any way to, like, for the council to exercise the authority to make sure this is included as part of the budget, or because it's the mayor's budget, we don't have the authority to do that?
Through the chair, with the motion, the staff recommendation, that will get it into the budget based on that motion, but it will still be highlighted for the mayor as an item that was added through the year, or that's not part of what I call like the core operations. So.
Thank you, and I'm just wondering, because if for whatever reason it's not included in the mayor's budget comes to council and we don't remember that this is supposed to be on the budget. I'm just wondering, is there something we can add to this to make sure it gets there, or is it not?
Through the chair, we have a mechanism in our budget presentation that was introduced in the 2026 budget that allows for items that are included or excluded based on previous direction of council so that would then become highlighted as an item that you could potentially vote on or propose. So again, based on this, we would likely include it, but if the mayor's direction post-election is to make changes, then we would be able to still highlight for the rest of council what those changes like included or excluded. I think it will get what you're after.
Thank you, and just to clarify, I don't think that'll be the case, for things moving forward, it's just different than what we used to be doing, so thank you for clarifying the process.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Hunt.
Through the chair, the reason I like the extension of the sidewalk is that's a segment of our park system where we don't currently have sidewalk now. And I think it would just improve the walkability.
And I think it would work, in the short term as a viewing platform, we could cordon off sections of the sidewalk. For when there are events there, that was one of the attractive features that it served two purposes. Second, that we could fund it, from budgets currently. And my thought was if it's insufficient down the line, we could always look at adding something on later. Anyway, that's the reason I was in favor of the subcommittee recommendation and would vote against the current motion.
Councilor Henderson.
Through the chairs, just listening to what Councilor Hunter is recommending. That might work if we say double widen the sidewalk, made it wider. So that benches could be, and spaces could be set back, like a green lot type thing. Like make it wider than say a multi-use trail or something. Like a regular sidewalk, I don't see would work at, they're what, 1.5. So if you went to say, I don't know, 3 meters or something, I don't know how much room there is before you get into that big hill. But to me, in some ways, I feel this would be safer than a platform.
So I'm not sure the sidewalk width possibilities, and I think we are able to do whatever, but you're right, there is a slope there, so we have to be careful. And the subcommittee recommendation included a resting area which proposes to be wider at that one section. But
yeah, through the chair, so city standard for non-curb face sidewalk is 1.5 meters wide. Curb face, which I think was kind of the discussion at ITS, is 1.8. There's no reason we can't go larger than that. Some rest areas, I would advise against going too large. It's like a bigger road at that point. But definitely that can be kind of worked out for the sign. If we went to 1.8 or 2 meters and then included a couple rest areas that cut into the stilts.
thank you. So yeah, at subcommittee, we had this conversation and I was in support of the dual purpose of the sidewalk being that it provides walkability along that whole block. We have a lot of walkers that walk on the other side and the sidewalk actually gets quite narrow as you approach the bridge. So it's a bit of a pinch point, so this would alleviate that, allowing people to walk on the other side, etc. So I would be in support of the subcommittee recommendation rather than a staff recommendation. Councilor Henderson.
Thank you, Chair. So are we thinking of starting the sidewalk at Water Street and going all the way to Waterloo Street? Is that what we're thinking?
That's my answer.
Through the chair, it's Hobart Street. Hobart Street.
Oh, Hobart Street.
Really parking is weird. Because there is already a sidewalk that comes down
Yeah,
from Ontario.
so you would continue on that, it's Hobart, eh? From Hobart to
Hobart.
Waterloo, all the way there.
Yeah, Water Street kind of jets
And
off.
then where the bag shop part was, we'd make a wider there so that like a whole section would be wide so that people could.
Yeah, through the chair, I think the idea was to add rest stations and strategically place them in that area.
Which would also provide, say, benches with a view of the river from across the river. Who's saying? Okay, so we do have the first staff recommendation, which has been moved and seconded for the accessible platform to be referred to the budget. Councilor Henderson.
I'd like to make a motion that we refer this to the next council meeting. I'm thinking I will email all the accessibility committee and ask them their thoughts on this. Is that a possibility? Because I said both options are really good, but I really like the idea of sidewalk.
So we could carry this forward to the next council meeting?
Yes.
And not make a decision here.
Right.
The committee.
Just bring it back in 2 weeks.
What does the clerk think of that? We do have a motion on the floor, so we would need to make it, which actually be made. So
If I get a seconder from our rules,
you can withdraw your motion. Or you may have to withdraw your motion first, but I'll defer to the clerks, see how this could happen.
can I refer?
Through the chair, so it is my understanding that the current motion on the floor is for the staff recommendation to proceed. Should council wish for referral for staff to bring back further report at the council meeting with this matter goes before council. And council concern. I don't think that the current motion on the floor would preclude a referral motion if the intent is for staff to bring back additional information for council's consideration.
So we need to vote on this motion unless you withdraw it.
I think that includes.
Councilor Beatty.
If we vote on the motion on the floor, then we would be doing an action and we would have to then reverse, would it not?
It depends.
So it would depend on what council wishes. Certainly, the committee can move forward recommendation for council's consideration. Should council decide to move with a different option, then council certainly has the ability.
Councilor said.
Thank you, so the council could forward a motion for referral. They could reach out for staff to reach out to the accessibility advisory committee for their opinion on either. And that motion would take precedent over the motion on the floor, and that's what we voted on, is that correct?
Through the chair, my understanding is the committee would like to see a referral motion be passed today so that staff can bring back a report that the council may make when this matter is considered.
Right, and then, but we wouldn't have to withdraw the current motion, which is if it's sort of take precedent over the motion, is that correct?
Through the chair, yes, so the referral motion would proceed and staff will bring back additional information at the council meeting with this matter is considered. And at that point, council can decide to proceed with the committee recommendation, or if they can, council can certainly pass another.
So Councilor Henderson, you're making a referral motion.
Yes, I am.
Based on what the request is.
Yes, I am.
Okay, and so we need a second here for that.
Through the chair, just for order, it would be appropriate to proceed with the correct motion on the floor and then ask for further referral motion as we're not. Sorry, just through the chair, is it, my understanding is that Councilor Henderson is looking for a separate referral motion instead of an amendment to the current motion to add the referral.
It's a referral motion, so that I believe supersedes the motion that's on the floor. Somebody does a referral. Pardon?
Couldn't you just withdraw your motion?
I don't have a motion.
Oh, you have the motion, that's all right. Understood.
Yeah, but
Would you like to withdraw the motion? No?
if you do a referral,
Well, you know, my position is I don't think that's a good place for a sidewalk. I think that they wanted this platform, so I'm recommending that we take what they wanted and go with it.
Chair, I just wanna say we've also talked at our meeting about sidewalks and stuff and having one there, so they don't know about this option. So if we send that option to them, I think they might pick that instead, because then they can really travel all the way along, right? And it makes it more accessible for everybody, people with strollers, people walking teams and skateboarders and everybody can.
Okay, I'll withdraw my motion.
Okay, great, so that's next.
I have to refer this. What am I referring
You're
to?
referring to staff so that they can come back with further information once they talk to the accessibility committee about the subcommittee recommendation. Okay.
I'll send it off to them.
The chair, could we just get some clarification in terms of like the timeline of when the councilor expects the report back?
2 weeks. They'll come back and council in 2 weeks. They want to make sure we get the better budget.
For a seconder for this referral motion. Councilor, is there any other conversation about this? Motion on a referral motion, actually, no, there's some discussion about it. Oh, no, that's a good.
That's very purposeful.
Okay, seeing no comments or questions, all in favor? Thank you. Item 8, business arising from subcommittee 8.1 is pedestrian crossover at Huron Street Bridge, and this one I'm going to turn over to Mr. Bachman. Phyllis and Bill.
Yeah, through the chair, so over the years, there's been several requests to review the feasibility of a pedestrian crossover in the area of Huron and York Street and the York Street Bridge. Given the existing horizontal alignments, surrounding roadway conditions, and inadequate stopping safe distance for westbound drivers, staff have been against installing a PXO at this location. More recently, the topic came up again at ITS. And in advance of the meeting, staff reached out to a traffic safety consultant ahead of the ITS request for a quote to review the feasibility of a crossover and provide alternative ideas that could be considered at this location or in this area. So that's where it's generated from.
Okay, thank you. And I would add to that, at APAC and the ITS subcommittee, we've had conversations over the years about a pedestrian crossover at this particular point. It's a heavily used crossing point, and we all know it's at a curve, and that there are trucks that you can't prevent from driving on the Kings Highway. So it is a dangerous area, but it's also very complicated to solve this. So a specialized engineer who understands this type of safety concern, this is what could be recommended as a motion moving forward. So there is a subcommittee recommendation that staff be approved to undertake an assessment. So they move for percent. Councillor Hunter, second by Councillor Nutt. Comments, Councillor Zedek.
Thank you. I support the idea. I was just wondering, is there a big chance that we would be denied this crossover over the highway? Or is it pretty likely that I just don't want to spend $10,000 and find out the province won't allow us to put a pedestrian crossover? Okay, so I just didn't know if staff had any comments on that.
Yeah, so through the chair, it's a good point. Obviously, the MTO has governance over the road, and they would ultimately have to review and approve a PXO at that location. Part of the assessment would be to evaluate installing a traditional crossing, and if that's not a solution or an option, coming up with alternative ideas in the air. So alternative ideas may not require MTO approval essentially. So the money spent isn't necessarily not just strictly looking at PXO crossing.
That's what we do.
Through the chair, one of my concerns is certainly coming up with a solution that makes it less safe by encouraging people to think it's safe. So that's, I'm very hesitant to come up with the worst solution than discouraging people from crossing there, because it is not a safe place for people to cross, but they kind of feel it now. If you encourage them not to feel like that's a problem, they could be walking into, you know, we have people who are not moving particularly quickly. I'm really concerned that we get into the wrong position on this.
That's right.
Thank you to the chair. I feel pretty passionate about this specific spot because I feel like we've been told over and over and over again from staff that there's not proper sightlines. It is not a safe place to cross. So even this $10,000, I feel like is a waste of money because, and it's really of the same sentiment is that if we have a cross, even if there's lights on Ontario Street or lights around the other corner, we're giving pedestrians the sense of safety that I don't think exists. We're depending on drivers not looking on their phones, not being distracted, noticing the lights. Like we're having a lot of things that are in place that I just give a false sense of security. So I just feel like we've been told over and over from our staff, this is not a safe place to crosswalk. And so I just trust that the staff are telling us the truth, and I don't think we should waste the money.
Thanks, through the chair. Are we able to actually stop the traffic on Ontario Street before the with the idea that like our crosswalk might be 100 yards long, but we could stop the traffic there and thereby make that crossing safe?
So through the chair, that would be like a conventional PXO crossing configuration. It's not a standard layout that is provided as in the interior traffic manual's guidance. I haven't seen one like that before, so that would be again a unique alternative or solution that could be explored. But again, it would have to go through the MCO for approval, I think, and review. So it would have layers of review.
Just a follow-up to that then, would it make sense to approach the MTO first to see if you spend 10 grand to come up with a design and they say, no, you can't do it anyway? We wasted our money, would they opine either way before spending money?
Through the chair, the MTO has been consulted at this point on this topic. It is something that can be reach out and raise the question or bring the topic up. We haven't had much success with correspondence or responses to some of our requests in the past, but nonetheless, the attempt would be.
Thank you. No, I think I am inclined to agree with Councilor McCabe and Councilor Bean. I think this is the discussion I was having with the resident this week about even the pedestrian crossings that are in not such a dangerous location. It is more of, you know, people need to know and kids need to know that when you push it, that it's not just push it and go, it's push it and still look and make sure the cars are stopped. And so, yeah, I'm inclined to agree with their comments at this time. I think, yeah, I do agree that we maybe should be leaving it alone, and people they know there are 2 crosswalks that are in relatively close proximity with the streetlights, and maybe we should just leave it alone.
Thank you to the chair. Even the concept of stopping at Ontario Street, if you have somebody that is slow crossing and then the lights stop, and then all of a sudden they just say, oh, I get to go now. Again, we're just like, it's a false sense of security, and it's just the sightline is not there. So I just don't agree with it at all. And we would back up, like that's that block from that curve to the set of lights, that most complex set of lights we have in town is so small. You have, like, the time it takes someone to cross, that would be all backed up into that set of lights, and it's just a mess. And I feel like there's a crosswalk here and a crosswalk there. And I know the high school, maybe we need to reiterate, but the high school recommends to their students go under the bridge to get over Grove Street, go under the bridge. So like if there is another path over and it's just under the bridge, which is better. So maybe we just need to keep on reminding the high school to tell the students, do not cross at Grove Street. But obviously you can see that I probably have way too much of an opinion on that topic, but.
Well, I also had a lot of conversations about it too, and I guess I had one question and then one comment. Question would be, so if this expert was looked at it, was like, there's no way to do a pedestrian crossing. Would they then suggest things, alternatives that would need to be approved by the MTO first, like other ways that we can, like some infrastructure that we put in possibly to prevent? Is that one of the alternatives that could be proposed?
Through the chair, that's what they were asked. If there's a massive no-go for crossing this location that can help alternative languages.
So my thought is that then we can come up with some good ideas, hopefully from stopping people crossing there as opposed to encouraging cross there. My other thought was, I agree with encouraging people to go under the bridge. It is a bit, it's not accessible, and B, it needs some upgrades, so I don't know, maybe the money is better spent putting some lighting and fixing the crossing under the bridge and then putting some signage for people, because I don't think a lot of people know that exists. So those are some food for thought. Councilor Johnson.
I was really, when I read that, I thought, oh, that'd be really great to have pedestrian crossings. But then I was worried about when people coming along on Harris Street and coming around that curve, and all of a sudden the light's on. You have to have something that warns them before they turn the curve. I mean, to me, it would be safer to cross, how we used to have a crossing. We never had a foreman where we raised the curve from the bank across to the end of the stores there by Taco Shop, right? Because then it's in a straightaway. People coming either way would see it, but then people are parking over by Shakespeare Gardens, so they're gonna cross that way anyway. you're always gonna take the shortest out. If we were gonna put a pedestrian crossing, and that's only a half block from the other street lights. I don't know, there's not an easy answer for this one. You'd have to almost build a third one. I think the bridge to the road where we're.
Yes.
No.
Move the pedestrian flyover. Yeah. Sponsory, okay. Thank you, the chair. I would be willing to make the motion to move the subcommittee recommendation and get this expert in. Because then I think that this issue will be once and for all solved. And when people can keep coming, asking for this, we will be able to firmly say it's not. And then maybe I'm completely wrong and there is some wonderfully safe way to get people across there and I would be wrong and it's all at that way too, so. I'll make the motion that we.
Actually, your motion was already.
Oh, seconded,
So we're
never
just.
mind, sorry, that was a long time ago, I'm sorry, I just said request.
Okay, so we do have the motion moved and seconded. And lots of discussion, and are there any other thoughts or comments at this point? If not, I will call the question, all in favor? Those opposed? And that carries. Thank you. Item 9 is for the information on committee, there's 9 appointments department update, and item 10 is adjournment. Motion for adjournment, Councilor Blue. We need a second. Yes, we know a second. Now it's 28 seconds, all in favor?
Chair Burbank, Councilor Reed, can you
Your worship, going back to your regular council agenda, item 15 is council reconvene, item 15.1 is declarations of pecuniary interest. Are there any to be made at this time?
noted?
Item 15.2 is reading of the bylaws, and there's one bylaw, the confirmatory bylaw, which requires first and second reading and third and final reading.
Thank you. We move first and second. By Councilor Burbank, second by Councilor Sade. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Most of any, that's unanimous and carried. And move ready for the third and final. By Councilor Hunter, second by Councilor Burbank. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Most of any, that's unanimous and carried. Our final item of the evening, and I certainly thank to go especially our press gallery, two great public meetings. So I think staff, council, and all the members about public here tonight. Move over to adjourn. Thank you, Councilor Hunter, second by Councilor Hunter, all in favor, and we are adjourned. Thank you very much.